Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
Halftime show, Terry Ford and Tyler Head hanging out here up until 12:30 today. Then we're going to take a break and let our new co-host, Shane Beamer, come in for about a half an hour. Then we'll get back at it and take you up until 3 o'clock here on The Game. Whether you're listening in Columbia at 107.5 or in Florence at 100.5 or 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Appreciate you. Oh, we got to plug in the headphones. Get this baby started. First day of spring practice. You heard Wes and Chris, who were there, talking about it on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. And the guys also put up very interesting position depth chart going into spring practice. And obviously, when the spring game kicks in, we will have it here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Myself, Wes, Chris Miller, Cocky, might bring Tyler along. Who knows? We could have a billion people doing our spring game coverage here on The Game. So spring practice gets cooking, and it's one day. Guys are running around in shorts and shells, and you don't get a whole lot out of what you see. You just hope maybe get an idea, Tyler, of a group of guys together that could be the ones right now.
That is not an excuse. We need answers to every single question we have this offseason. I don't care if we're 160 some odd days away from kicking off against Old Dominion. I need to know right now.
And that's the thing. It's like, okay, because I was kidding with those guys. They walked out and go, give me 30 seconds, everything about spring practice. And, it's day one. And it's just day one. They're getting it together. They have a crude idea of what they're rolling out there in practice. I mean, they have an idea what they want to do, obviously, every day.
Sure.
But you got so many. We said this yesterday. There are so many possibilities with this football team on both sides of the ball. We have more possibilities than true answers at this point.
And Wes and Chris brought up the point there at the end of the show. Like, they were trying to figure out who was who out there because you have so many new guys. You have 24 new guys between transfers, maybe even close to 36 between transfers and freshmen coming in, where they're looking like, okay, who's 22 on offense? Okay, that's Jawarren Howell or whatever it is. Like, it's a learning process for everyone.
I'll be honest with you. I was looking at the depth chart today, and that they put together in Gamecock Central, and I'm shaking my head about, okay, Bell, he was from Florida Atlantic, right? The transfer, the guard.
Yeah.
He's 2D. He's second string on the early depth chart. He was the guy from Florida Atlantic, right? Who started at Auburn. I got to go look again. I don't know if I'm right or not. Yeah, I'm trying to get my head back around it because there's so many different people.
Totally.
It's crazy. But because you have all of this depth, that you have so many possibilities, and even they talked about it in the Gamecock Central Post, like they put Josiah Thompson in as the backup, I believe, left tackle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With the thought process, this we're going to put him right now. We'll see where he goes. And they said it's not if, it's when for Josiah Thompson. They even said that about Marquis Anderson at guard.
Right.
It wasn't if he's going to step in and be a starter, it's when. Remember, he was a guy they were looking at last year to get some run because of all the issues, and he got hurt.
Sure.
So I'm with Wes and Chris. It's like, who's this? Wait a minute, I think I know who this is. Let me go back and double check because I haven't read about it in a week, and I got to get it back in my head. I also thought it was interesting how they set up the wide receiver, and again, it's early. It's just the first depth chart going into spring practice. But Jaylen Brown right now is as the lead guy in the slot, which would make sense.
Sure.
Because he's a yak yard king. And then, but you brought a lot of guys in who are slottish type receivers. And obviously, Nick Harbor is doing track right now, hoping that Tyshawn Russell, who those guys brought up in the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, is he a guy that's going to, develop and grow? We'll see. But a lot of possibilities on this roster going into the spring, and obviously bottom of the hour, 12:30, Shane Beamer will kick his presser, and we'll hear from the ball coach about day one of spring practice. Also, we got this thing called the NCAA tournament for the men, and we're busy around here, bub.
A little bit.
And we got stuff going on.
Let me ask you this question. Does the tournament start for you when the first 4 begins or when the actual field of 64 starts playing?
I'll watch the first 4, but the tournament for me is not real till you get to 64 and you're ready to roll. I'm not going to disrespect the teams in the play-in because we saw VCU and UCLA go to the Final Four out of the play-in.
Sure.
But for me, the tournament really doesn't kick until those games are over and we fill out the field. That's when it's real for me.
I think that's fair.
And I don't do a bracket till after the first 4.
I started filling out my bracket a little bit this morning, and I'm like you. I like to look at analytics and KenPom and all that kind of stuff. I was just kind of going off the easy assumptions, like, all right, well, I feel like UConn should be able to get by Stetson. No disrespect to Stetson, by the way.
You
Very
are
good
disrespecting
season.
Stetson.
I am disrespecting Stetson. I did have a little bit of, I was a little curious when it came to like Tennessee and St. Peter's. I was like, them Peacocks, man, I don't know. They might give them trouble, but I was like, well, Dalton Knecht.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Dalton Knecht, and we're tomorrow going to have Vince Ferrara on from the Sports Animal in Knoxville to give us a little preview of Tennessee going into the tournament. We're going to try to get as many of those as we can before they play. So we'll have Vince, also our buddy Conrad from Jocks in Birmingham, talk about Bama going into the tournament. And then Friday, Olin Buchanan will give us a little preview of Texas A&M. And we'll try to get some more because we have a few more SEC schools, obviously, in this thing. We're going to try to get as many as we can to get a little preview going in the tournament. And then Mike Uva today at 2:15, he's heading to Pittsburgh, en route to Pittsburgh. So we'll talk to him. Obviously, Gamecock football, Gamecock basketball. We'll get into everything with Mike at 2:15.
The Lake Boston folks in Pittsburgh?
I don't think they know until he talks.
I was going to say, he can't get away with it.
Once Uva opens his mouth, like, you're my cousin from Boston. I saw you in those commercials.
Now from around here, are you?
Hey, boy. You got it ready. I remember when I was a kid, I grew up, obviously, born in Baltimore. And I lived in Baltimore till I was in 2nd grade. Then 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, I was in Richmond, Virginia, because my mom is from Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
Or Ashland, Virginia.
Right.
Then I came back to Baltimore for 7th grade to 12th. We first moved to Richmond, right? And this is the old days where, before cable and the internet, if somebody's moving into a neighborhood, everybody comes out to see what the hell's going on, right?
Sure. Who are these folks?
Yeah, so I'm a little kid, and I'm everybody's in there saying hi, and they asked, who are you or whatever, and I said who I was, and I'm talking just like this.
Yeah. And
they go, and this woman goes, well, you talk funny. You got a funny accent. It's like...
It's funny because Richmond is kind of like considered the northernmost Southern. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? 'Cause, I mean, obviously Virginia was in the Confederacy, part of the South. So like
capital of the Confederacy.
That's kind of like where the line is drawn of what's South and what's North. Even though like Richmond, still pretty far up there. You're almost in D.C.
Well, it's funny because the Richmond of that point of time when I was a kid, I'd pop into Richmond every now and then. Now I was just there over the week. Last week I was there.
Sure.
Richmond now is a suburb of D.C.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Richmond then was not. Richmond was purely in the South when I was a kid. Today, it's a suburb of D.C. Totally different. When you go to Richmond now, it's a totally different world than when I was a kid when I lived there in elementary school.
Right.
But I'll never forget that lady. You talking funny, boy.
Where are you from? Right there.
That's right.
You can see it from here, actually.
Not that far. Look, right there. All right, so... when we look at this bracket, and you brought up Tennessee, and the thing with them that makes them different is Dalton Knecht, right? He's a bucket getter.
Yep.
He can score buckets on all 3 levels. But as you saw in the SEC tournament, if Knecht has trouble, Tennessee is going to have trouble on offense. Because he has made them a different basketball team this year.
Right.
And the reason Tennessee's a 2 seed is they don't go through 7-minute droughts without a field goal anymore because they got a bucket getter.
Right.
Knecht might have more pressure on him to perform game in and game out in this tournament than any player on any other high seed.
Well, we've seen when he's cold, I mean, you got good players on the rest of the team, but they are not nearly the same caliber of team. When their best player, you know, we're having this conversation about good tournament teams. Most of them good tournament teams aren't built around one player. Tennessee is very much built around Dalton Knecht because when he's off, The rest of those guys are fine, but they're not nearly on the same level.
They're not bucket getters.
Exactly.
Everybody else on this basketball team is Tennessee, the normal Tennessee.
Sure.
I mean, they're okay offensively, but they're not anything special.
We saw normal Tennessee for 30 of the 40 minutes the first time South Carolina played them, and Connett went off in the final couple of minutes.
Went crazy.
If he did this for 40 minutes, South Carolina doesn't win that game.
Absolutely. That's the thing. So Tennessee is a team that is truly almost going to live and die on the performance of Dalton Connect on offense.
The conversation was, is this finally the year that Rick Barnes gets him to the Final Four? I don't think so, because when you live by one player, you die by one player.
Absolutely.
So that'll get him a couple wins, but I don't think it gets him that deep.
Looking at this right now, I'm just looking at their little pod. It's because South Carolina's in their pod. The team that I think could get them, I don't buy into Texas. Texas has talent. I just don't buy into Texas this year.
Sure.
There's a reason the Longhorns are a 7 seed.
Well, and if you do horns down, they get their feelings hurt.
We could do an hour on how dumb that is. I mean, look, if South Carolina gets by Oregon, which I think they will, and if they get Creighton, which I think they will, obviously South Carolina has a shot because the way they play.
Sure.
Creighton hasn't run into a team that plays that type of tempo, that kind of pace. Creighton's really good. Make no mistake.
There's a reason they're a 3 seed.
So if Creighton would beat South Carolina, I think that's a team that could take down Tennessee in the Sweet 16 would be Creighton.
And by the way, there's no shame in losing to Creighton if it gets to that point.
No, Creighton's one of the 8 teams in the country that's in the top 25 in offensive and defensive efficiency per Ken Pom.
And I think, going back to that article last week of me and Dimitri discussed this, the 8 teams with a realistic shot at winning the national championship, Creighton was on that list.
Creighton's on that list. And that's the point we were trying to make of Creighton yesterday. They might not be as good as they were last year because they were a Final Four team last year. They should have been in the Final Four. They had God knows how many chances to win that game in the Elite Eight and didn't close the deal. They're not as good as last year's team.
Right.
But they're good enough. If this bracket rolls the right way, they could fall into the Final Four.
Sure.
That's how good Creighton is.
Sure.
I can see Creighton taking out Tennessee at 16. Would not surprise me at all. I mean, really, if you look at this for South Carolina's purposes, they've beaten Tennessee. They've split with Tennessee.
Yeah.
So they know they can beat the Vols. Everybody else, look, Virginia, I really don't want to see Virginia end up against South Carolina in any kind of way, because Virginia plays slower than South Carolina.
I want to see this.
Why, you want to see 15-14?
You ever heard of morbid curiosity?
That's
where I'm kind of I legitimately want to see a college basketball game with a final score of 30-28 because this would be possible.
Virginia looks at South Carolina and says, man, you guys play fast.
It's slow down, guys.
Come on. What are you doing?
You only utilize 29 seconds of the play clock. We utilize 29.9.
It is. I mean, Virginia is the slowest paced team in America, I believe.
I want to see it. I just want to see what would happen.
You're a sick human being. You're a sick man. Because again, Virginia. I always joke about Virginia and Tony Bennett. They bore you to death.
Yeah.
Because they play so slow.
It's effective.
Look, they've won a national championship, and they've also lost to a 16 seed. But Virginia, look, Tony Bennett's done really nice work. They play that pack line defense. They play super slow. And I always joke that they win by boring you to death.
And you know what? That's a style of basketball that I didn't fully appreciate until we started seeing it here.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you just watch it casually or Virginia, who cares, playing slow defense.
Mm-hmm.
But then seeing it on a day in, day out basis here, I'm like, okay, I get the appeal of this.
And I get why, again, Lamont Paris learned under Bo Ryan.
Sure.
Wisconsin played really slow. But you do, and I agree with you, you see how well coached the Gamecocks are on both ends of the court and how well they execute as players in this type of style.
Right.
All right, we'll get back in here. We got about 15, 16 minutes till Shane Beamer will jump in and do his post first day of spring practice presser right here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. We'll jump back in. The women get it going on Friday. We'll have a few thoughts on that as well. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Till the bottom of the hour, then Shane Beamer takes over on the game.
The Game Network. The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV. Download the 107.5 The Game app and listen anywhere. The beach. The gym. And yes, even there. Go to iTunes or Google Play and snag the 107.5 The Game app. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Discover Herndon Certified. Herndon Chevrolet's premier used car warranty. Shop with complete confidence knowing Herndon Chevrolet has got you covered. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
Hello, this is Keith Gramah with Chapin Furniture. I've already secured tickets to the second round of a very important tournament that takes place this month. And if you're wondering, no, it's not the St. Patty's Day clover eating contest.
Keith, I don't think you can eat clover, and I think we know which tournament you're referring to.
I'm hoping to get lucky and see the Gamecocks play. And yes, you can eat clover. Look it up.
Okay, Mr. Clover. Why don't you just share about the madness taking place at Chapin Furniture right now?
Chapin Furniture's Motion Madness sale is in full swing in the month of March. Furniture that reclines, swivels, rocks, or glides, all on sale now. Save up to 20% on brand new orders.
Chapin Furniture's Motion Madness sale going on through March 30th. Shop online at chapinfurniture.com or take I-26 to exit 91A in Chapin and look for the big red chair.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Clark. Garnet Trust is hoping to build the best and most sustainable NIL program in the country. To find out how you can get involved, go on over to garnettrust.com. You can support Gamecock athletes there, get access to exclusive content, and help Garnet Trust build the best NIL program in the country.
Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV. Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. The Game TV. Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass.
Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause thousands of dollars in damage to your home's foundation. Canty Foundation can replace your gutters and save you money.
Canty installs gutter shutter.
Call us today for your free inspection.
Canty can fix it.
Having a reliable gutter system is essential to protecting your home's interior and exterior. Heavy rain can unleash gallons of water onto your home, and poorly maintained or leaky gutters could lead to roofing, siding, and water damage that is expensive to repair or replace. Online at cantygutters.com.
It's the season of love, and there's no sweeter time and place to feel it than today at Love Chevrolet. The heart-pounding rumble of the Silverado High Country. The captivating 2024 Chevy Trax SUV. Most affordable in its class. No matter what features you're looking for in a brand new Chevy, your match is waiting for you right now at Love Chevy. In this 63rd season of Love, your trusted hometown Chevy dealer is proud to carry on the tradition of honesty, integrity, and treating customers like family. No fast talk, no gimmicks, no ridiculous add-on stickers. Simply the best selection of new Chevys at South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer right now. And ready to drive home today. Don't forget about the $1,000 low price guarantee. Wow, there's a lot to love about Love Chevy. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
That's the power of love. Love Chevy.
Sneezing, coughing, stuffy nose, runny nose, postnasal drip, interrupted sleeping. I was groggy at the end of the day.
Allergies and sinus congestion were making Jana miserable. Then, a friend recommended Navage. Navage provides immediate drug-free congestion relief, flushing your nasal passages with refreshing saline and sucking out mucus, germs, and other airborne irritants. Navage helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel your best right away.
Navage gave me instant relief. I didn't have to wait 30 minutes. I didn't have to wait an hour, 90 minutes. I didn't have to wait a minute. I ran the rinse and I felt better.
Stop suffering from congestion and start breathing and feeling your best again with Navage. Navage.
I've had people ask me how I find relief, and I tell them Navage immediately. This thing is amazing.
Navage is available at Navage.com or at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid.
Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. Your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence. The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence, and the 107.5 The Game app.
Halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. We go till the bottom of the hour-ish, and then Shane Beamer will take over. Shane's post day one of spring practice presser you can hear on the game here in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach.
Where he better have the answer to every question that we have for this offseason.
Shane, starter at quarterback.
Where's the depth chart?
Where's that? Depth charts. My favorite was Clayton White. Was it not last year, the year before? They were asking about depth chart earlier. Clayton started laughing. He goes, we spend like a minute on that thing, right?
Yeah.
You guys live and die on it. We we just, pick names out of a hat.
And Beamer, and I wasn't here, obviously, neither one of us when Muschamp was the coach, but apparently when Muschamp was the coach, they just stopped giving a crap about the depth chart halfway through the year. They weren't updating it weekly. Like, at least Beamer updates it where, hey, this guy, but it's usually like a week behind. Like, all right, well, Tree started this past weekend, so he'll be on next week's depth chart instead of this week's depth chart.
Well, it was like, I remember, I think Jay was telling me that Muschamp, some guy would have broke his leg in 10 places, and Muschamp still has a starter.
Yeah, still a starter.
Muschamp didn't care. All right, so we've got the women Friday, and it will be here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia.
Okay, all right.
1:30 pregame, 2 o'clock tip. It's going to go like this. We're going to start off at Twin Peaks with our, like we always do the last 3 years now, first day of March Madness, first weekend of March Madness, the first 4 games. We will be starting off at noon at Twin Peaks. We go till roughly 1:30. Then Brad will take over the women in the NCAA tournament with their victim, their first-round victim. 2 o'clock tip. Everything will wrap up. We'll go back out to Twin Peaks with Jay and the post-game show and Elijah and the whole crew.
Do you think if Sacred Hearted Presbyterian combined together and had 10 women on the court, they would stand a chance?
They could take their entire rosters, put 30 players on the court. South Carolina has 5. Gamecocks still win.
Probably.
Sorry. And obviously, South Carolina, a number 1 seed, which is kind of probably getting boring at this point for Dawn. Here is Dawn talking about being a number 1 seed. It's hard.
They don't even think about being undefeated. I probably think more about being the number 1 overall seed than at all, because it's a really hard place to be. It means you played a really tough schedule. It means that you've been successful. It means that you've done something right for the majority of the season, and for it to be us with the team that came into the season with so many holes and so many unknowns. Really proud that they were able to get us back here.
We talked about this through the year, that when the season started, remember, South Carolina wasn't picked to win the SEC. South Carolina wasn't looked at as, and nobody had them preseason number 1 or even the top 3.
Right.
This is going to be LSU's league. South Carolina, there's no rebuilding here, but it was just they were reloading, so to speak.
And a reloading year based on the preseason AP poll meant you're going to make the Elite Eight, essentially, but not the Final Four. Which,
right.
There are 350 some odd programs that would kill for that to be a down year for their program.
Yes.
But for South Carolina, a team that's perennially in the Final Four, playing for a national championship, that's seen as a step back.
Right.
And obviously, still got to go through the tournament, still got to win the games, but we feel like this team is good enough to get back to the Final Four.
And once you saw the pieces, you had Cardozo be able to move into the starting lineup, and Chloe Kitts move in the starting lineup, and you saw Watkins developing as a season. Her development through the season was unreal.
Yeah.
And then you saw, Tina Paopao do what she did at Oregon. Show up, yawn, can threes. You saw Hall and the development of Raven at the point. And, and then Fawala, you're going, oh, my God, this is true. She's got crazy talent. And everybody stepped up or stepped into roles or did this or that. And then, we were waiting for tests, and they had their tests, and they passed all the tests, especially at the SEC tournament when it was crazy time. So, again, this team is stacked. And 1:30 pregame, 2 o'clock tip. Don't forget Thursday, coming out to Twin Peaks. We'll get there about 11:30ish before the halftime show at noon. Come out, get your team. Just like last year, we're going to give out a team to 68 folks. And the team that wins the national title, if you have that team, you get South Carolina baseball season tickets for the rest of the year. We'll have a bunch of other prizes as well. So come on out and pick your team. Come on into Twin Peaks. Last year we had a line like out to Gervais.
And just because you pick, let's say, St. Peter's, they make the Sweet 16 and get prizes, too.
You get prizes,
so
yes.
It's like, okay, well, they may not win the national championship, but they can still win you something.
Exactly. We'll get back in here. Shane Beamer, his first spring practice presser of the season is coming up in Columbia and Myrtle Beach here on the halftime show on the game.
The Game Network. The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV. Got a take?
Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line.
Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen.
803-404-6100.
On your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
Plus tax, tags, and title with approved credit. Call 888-320-6359 for details. JT's Kia Mania is in week 3. Don't let credit concerns keep you from buying a new or pre-owned Kia. Nobody fights harder than JT to get you approved. With every new Kia, you'll get a huge cashback check. Plus, JT has no money down, no payments for 6 months. And check out our 0% financing. Everyone who comes gets to spin our prize wheel for cash and prizes. Greystone Boulevard or Killian Road. JT's Kia Mania is back.
Hey Gamecocks, Ben Cato, third generation owner of Cato's Power Equipment. We are thrilled to be offering brand new rental options in 2024 with the lineup of push mowers, stand on and walk behind aerators, dethatchers, and zero turn mowers. Most tools start around $100 a day to rent. Push mowers only $50. We have weekly and long-term rates available, so come borrow our tools and expand your ability to get your work done. Find out more at catospowerequipment.com or in person at 4012 West Beltline Boulevard.
Hi, my husband and I own a small business in Columbia, and we ended up needing some help with some tax problems that we had and needed to get resolved. We initially owed about $300,000, and John Ecton and his law firm ended up getting us an offer in compromise, which dramatically reduced the amount owed. I would personally recommend the Ecton Law Firm. They did an excellent job for us, and if this is a concern that you're facing, they're definitely the people you should call.
It's great to know we have changed people's lives for the better. Hi, this is local attorney John Ecton with the Ecton Law Firm. For over a decade, our office has been dedicated to helping hardworking individuals and businesses solve tax problems for good. So if you have years of unfiled tax returns or are facing IRS wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, call our office today at 771-9800 or go to EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. Let's get your tax problem solved for good. Call today. You'll be glad you did.
It's postseason basketball time, which means it's time for some watch parties cheering on the Gamecocks. And nothing beats a watch party spread of delicious Firehouse Subs. Whether it's a small party of 5 or you've invited the entire neighborhood, Firehouse Subs has you covered. Order in advance online at firehousesubs.com or tap on Rapid Rescue in the Firehouse Subs app, which is your best way to get great Firehouse rewards. Be the champion of your watch party this season, only with Firehouse Subs.
Bill Gunner for Dr. Dan Balknight and the Men's Clinic. Getting older is never fun. You start experiencing some symptoms that you're not accustomed to. Maybe it's brain fog. Maybe it's low energy level. Maybe it's lack of drive and motivation. But at the Men's Clinic, Dr. Dan Balknight is ready to help you with an individualized treatment that will treat your needs. So give him a phone call today, 803-875-MENS. Again, that's 803-875-MENS, or visit him on the web for more information, mensclinicsc.com.
This is Monster Jam. Witness big air, two-wheel skills, backflips, and all-out racing. It's the only place to see the world's best riders tear up the dirt in your favorite Monster Jam trucks, like Gravedigger, El Toro Loco, Megalodon, and more. It's big-time fun for the whole family. Monster Jam, as big as it gets. Coming to Colonial Life Arena April 6th and 7th. Brought to you by BKT Tires, Great Clips, and Texas Roadhouse. Visit monsterjam.com today.
Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass.
What's up, folks? Anthony Armstrong here.
Bob Popple, along with Super Bowl champion Carl Banks.
Hey, NFL fans. This is Solomon Wilcox, former NFL safety and host of the Believe in Bengals podcast. Catch my show and all 32 Believe NFL podcasts. Listen in to former players give their inside perspective on your favorite team. Search Believe, that's B-L-E-A-V, on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast.
It's always football season, wherever you listen.
What
you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
All right, Shane Beamer coming to the podium at any minute with his presser after the first day of spring practice, and we'll hear from the coach here in just a matter of a couple of minutes. Again, Thursday, 3:30 pregame, 4 o'clock tip. The Gamecock men in the NCAA tournament against Oregon. And you can hear it right here, and you can also hear Shane Beamer right now at the podium.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. Thanks to you guys for being here. Appreciate if you are traveling to Pittsburgh, wait until the end of the press conference to go. Unlike some of these guys that I saw at practice that are clearly on the way up there. But best of luck to Lamont up in Pittsburgh and Dawn and her team here in Columbia starting this week. It's awesome, the seasons that both those guys have had. Proud to call them colleagues and love watching both their teams, so wish them well. And then I also know that we have our swimming and diving team. They have their NCAA championships coming up, I think women this weekend and men next weekend as well. So best of luck to our squads there. Also, before I get into football, I meant to mention this last time. I know I put something out on X when he announced his retirement, but wanted to wish Gene Sapikoff best of luck in his next chapter as well. I appreciate the class he's shown in covering our program. I was down in Charleston or the Low Country the last 2 Sunday mornings, and I'm still a newspaper guy, so I'll still buy newspapers when I'm out places. And it's weird buying a Charleston Post and Courier and not seeing his column in there on a Sunday as well. But appreciate him and what he's done for South Carolina in sports, and much respect for the career that he had and the years that he spent in this industry as well. So wish you well, Gene, and hope to see you soon. Also, it was great being back out on the field this morning. First of all, I want to give credit to our players and Luke Day and our strength and conditioning staff for the progress that our team has made since we came back in January. They've had a great winter in the weight room. Physically, we've gotten stronger and faster and bigger, and it's a testament to the work we've put in our off-season program. So excited about that and the way we got better as a team. And then it was great to be able to be on the field this morning as well. Obviously, if you were out there, there's a bunch of recruits that are here right now. February is a dead period in college football, so no one can visit our campus. But then once March hits, you're able to visit again. So we had a bunch of guys that were here last week just visiting before we started practice, and obviously some fantastic players that were out there today, and then that'll still be here this afternoon, and more coming the rest of the week as well. So excited about that we've got so many prospects that are visiting our campus here in March and April, starting today with practice as well with the guys that were there also. I'll tell you what we told our team this morning. I know when we do all the team periods and you see 11 guys out there on defense, offense and defense, you're trying to figure out what the depth chart is and who the first team guy is here, the first team guy there is there. We don't have a depth chart right now, guys. So, and that's what I told the team right now. We may have 11 guys that went out there with a group today. The next time y'all come back to practice and you have an open period where you're able to watch stuff, it'll probably be different who's out there as well. We want to give everybody opportunities to work with different groups, and told our team this morning that I don't care what you did last season. I don't care what you did in last year, if it was your senior year in high school or you were at a different school. We're all starting fresh today, and we all have something to prove as well. And we're all about competition in this program, and everybody's going to get an opportunity to compete and earn a role as well. And regardless of what you did here, if you were at South Carolina, you got to prove it, and you got to continue to get better. And that's what we said spring practice is. It's continuous improvement over 15 practices, get better each day, and doing it in a highly competitive environment. And that's what it was out there on the field today, a highly competitive environment, and we're trying to get better as well. And it is a competitive environment because of the new additions that we have here. I really like our young freshmen. They're all here except for 3 guys. The guys that are a part of our signing class, they fit right in today, and they're freshmen. It was their first college football practice ever but they didn't look lost. Our transfers that came in as well have made us better. They're athletic and really, really excited about that group all across the board. And then our returning players. We obviously bring back a lot of players that have played a lot of football here for us here at Carolina. And they have taken another step as well and are better. So I like the group that we have. They're a fun group to be around. They're fun to work with. Like I said, they've had a great off season so far in in January and February in the winter conditioning program. And then now it's essentially like phase 2 or second quarter, however you want to refer to it, as we go into spring practice. And got a lot of work to do, but today was a good start, and eager to watch the tape from today and correct and get guys in here tomorrow and learn from it, and then be back out on the practice field on Thursday. So any questions you guys have? Hale gets the first one with David not being here. Wow, big day.
What an honor. What did you see from your quarterbacks this morning?
A lot of newness. You know, you think about it, Luke was working at receiver, but a little bit of quarterback. So when you think about it from that standpoint, Lenoris was the most experienced guy as far as taking quarterback reps at a Carolina practice. You know, Robbie Ashford never had, Davis Bevel never has, Dante Reno never has. So there was a little bit of trying to, figure out what they're doing and nerves. But, when they did know what they were doing and could execute, they performed well. I think they're athletic. We've got some bigger guys out there. Robbie's a big kid, and Lenoris obviously is a big guy as well. Davis has size, so the size jumps out at you. And then they're athletic and they can make throws. So it was rusty out there today for sure, with it being practice number 1, but a lot of upside in that group, and they'll continue to get better. And there's good competition. Last year in that room, everyone knew that Spencer was the guy, and now it's a very competitive room as well, where they're all competing and trying to make each other better, but they're all trying to be the guy as well. So that's been fun to watch also.
Is there a certain metric or mark you want to see from Lenoris or your quarterbacks in these 15 practices? What do you want to see from them the most? And as far as Lenoris, what have you seen so far in the offseason that you might have not seen from last season?
Yeah, as far as the quarterbacks, just being able to operate and execute the offense and be efficient. When we're huddling, can you get in and out of the huddle? When we're not huddling, can you communicate at the line of scrimmage? And then obviously all the accuracy and the toughness and the playmaking ability that you want to see. So I don't know if there's a certain metric. It's just we're going to give all those guys opportunities and equal opportunities to get out there and compete. And the scrimmages will be good. And I remember last year, that's really where you first started to notice Lenoris were in scrimmage situations where we made the quarterbacks live, and he was able to break tackles and run around, and you kind of saw what makes him unique also. So we'll be able to tell a lot more as the spring goes on with all those guys, and from that standpoint. And then Lenoris difference. Probably just the willingness to speak up and try and show some leadership. Last year at this time, he was the new guy, and even during the season, Spencer was the quarterback, and Lenoris wasn't really a vocal guy where he was going to speak up and try and lead the group. He's taken on more of a role where he has spoken up more, whether it be in team meetings or outside on the field or trying to organize the offense to throw and things like that on their own. He's taken more of a leadership role from that standpoint, and that's probably the biggest thing. But Lenoris is a guy you don't notice him, but you notice him, if that makes sense. He's the same guy day in, day out. He works really, really hard. I was in the weight room this morning at 6:20, and we didn't have anything until 7:30 as a team, but he was in the weight room just trying to get some extra work in this morning before practice even started, just stretching and stuff like that. And that's just who he is.
Coach, you and your coaching staff were very involved in practice today. How much of a focal point is that for you, and then how excited are you to get back out there?
Yeah, it's a focal point. I mean, there's a lot of things that this job entails, excuse me, when you're a head coach in the SEC, there's a lot of things that take you away from being on the field coaching football. So when you get the opportunity to go out there for 2 or 2+ hours, that's like the highlight of the job in so many ways. So certainly love being out there love coaching, but then with this particular group, because it is a fun group to be around. We're very young. There's a lot of guys that just went through their first practice ever as a South Carolina football player. So there's coaches as well. So there's a lot of newness also, and love that aspect of it. And then I'm a guy that, I just met with a recruit in my office, and I said, what stood out to you about practice? And he just said the energy. And everybody says that when they come to our practices, when they come from other schools where they watched other colleges practice and they come to our place, they always comment on that, which I take that as a compliment. We want our practices to be highly competitive, highly energetic, and we're flying around, and guys are having a good time out there competing, trying to make each other better. And it's the same thing as coaches. The coaches get competitive out there, competing against one another, and we all love to be on the field with our guys. And then what was the second part of just being back out there? Just excited, just because there is so much newness. We'd seen these guys in the weight room and we've seen them in the meeting room, but it was the first time that we were able to actually get out on the field and have a real practice competing against one another. We've been able to do some stuff out on the field within the rules for the last month or so, but as far as being able to go out there and compete against one another, offense versus defense, do special teams work, it was really the first time we were able to do that. And spring's awesome just because you're not getting ready for a game. It's 15 days of just you're worried about yourself and not an upcoming opponent.
Shane, what's the update? Nick Carver, what's his plans for spring? And do you have an update, Rocket Sanders?
Yeah, dang it, I screwed it up again. I brought the injury report in here and totally forgot to go over it, so that's my fault. First of all, with Nick, his focus, his primary focus right now is track and trying to win championships for our track team. And then there's also the Summer Olympics coming up as well, which I do believe is a very real possibility for him potentially. We'll see how outdoor track goes. So football-wise, track is the priority, but he will be with football when it doesn't interfere with track and when it doesn't interfere with his class schedule. And so what does that look like? That means class schedule-wise, Tuesdays and Thursdays, not to give you Nick's entire academic calendar here for the spring semester, but Tuesdays and Thursdays he has class, but he's in the morning, but he's able to be with us most of the morning. So he was out there today. He was in meetings this morning at 7:30, and he'll be able to be with us, on his own when it doesn't interfere with track. So he was out there today for the most part watching, and he was, during a lot of the practice parts, he was standing next to me getting the signal from the sideline or listening to the play call in the huddle, and then telling me what his assignment would be on that play and all that. And then also on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday days, the days that we don't practice, it's kind of the same thing. He's got a little bit more of a heavy class load on those days, or he may be traveling with track on those days. So when he can be with us, and we want him over here, and he's going to plan to be here, and when it doesn't interfere with track or class. But we won't have him out there necessarily practicing and getting hit where it prevents him from running in a track meet on Saturday. We don't want that. But like I told him today on the field when we were talking, I want him to be able to be the greatest track student athlete he can be this spring and win championships but I also want him to get better as a football player without it taken away from track. So I think we have a good plan. We've communicated with the track staff. We met back in December, I guess, about Nick's schedule in the spring and whatnot. So, and there was a second part on that. I'm sorry. Injuries, yes. So everybody out there, the only guys that weren't able to do anything at all today were C.J. Adams. He had a little bit of a spring break injury, which is unfortunate. So CJ will be out for the entire spring. It's a finger, nothing crazy long term, but it'll keep him out of the spring. Mo Kaba was not able to do anything today. He would most likely will not do anything this spring, but fully expecting to be ready for the season. And then Rocket did not do anything today. Very unlikely that he'll be able to do anything this spring. He's making progress. He's getting better. But coming off that shoulder, he's not where he needs to be right now. So he's when I say not doing anything, he's doing some of the rehab stuff at practice. But as far as throwing him in there into live action, he will likely not do any of that this spring. Everyone else was able to. Those three guys will most likely be out for the whole spring. Chase Swigert, offensive lineman, he didn't do anything today. And Jackson Hughes, the offensive tackle, Jackson didn't do anything today. But we're hopeful in the next 2 weeks that Jackson and Chase will be back and able to get going again. And then everyone else was able to do a little something today. May have been limited. May have not been able to do all the team periods against the defense, but they at least did the bulk of the practice, everyone else on the team. So we're in a pretty decent shape other than those three long-term guys. Yes, sir, Phil?
The freshman lineman from the state, excuse me, the freshman lineman from the state, along with Marquise Anderson, what have you seen from them, and do you sense kind of a bonding among them because they kind of grew up together in the state, Shrine Bowl and all that? Yeah, I do. As you guys have heard me say before, we want to keep the best players in South Carolina coming here to Columbia. And when you talk about those guys from South Carolina that are here right now, it's a pretty impressive group of South Carolina guys. And Marquis last year, without a doubt. But then you add Blake Franks, Josiah Thompson, Cam Pringle. There's certainly a bond just because, so much of the recruiting process, they were taking visits together and they got to know each other. And not just those offensive linemen, but that whole signing class that they just got really, really close. And that's why they all committed early, they stayed committed, and they all signed their papers so early on signing day was because of that bond. But certainly there's a bond with those guys and that whole group. You add, Mazio Bennett to it, where he and Blake Franks were high school teammates. And, it was cool for them to go through their first practice today where their heads are swimming, I'm sure, mentally, and they're trying to figure out where to go and what to do and all that. But they all looked like they belong. And I think that those three freshmen have a chance to be really, really good players. We, in all of our testing, if you will, feel like the height, weight, arm length, wingspan, all those things that we test with our players, those three offensive linemen were the most physically, measurable wise, the most impressive offensive linemen as far as wingspan, top three, arm length, top three, and there's a reason they were all so highly recruited. So eager for them to continue to attack the weight room and develop, but they're going to have a chance to be really good players for us, and they're great, young men, as well as that whole freshman class. We're really excited about that whole freshman class.
Defensively, personnel-wise, do you feel like you have the flexibility to mix and match 4-2-5, 3-3-5, whatever that might look like?
I think even more so than last year, I really do, just because of the athleticism that we've added at linebacker. A couple things. One, we're a little bit deeper right now on the defensive line. Essentially last year we had a three-man rotation at defensive tackle with Tonka Hemingway, Boogie Huntley, and TJ Sanders, and then Nick Barrett was kind of that fourth guy. Well, all those guys returned, plus we've added, DeAndre Jules to that, and Monkel Goodwine. So we've got some more depth there. At the edge position, last year it was Jordan Strawn and Brian Thomas, and then JT Gear got in a little bit in there. He got healthier, and Desmond all those guys, essentially Tyreek, all those guys returned for the most part, but now we've added Dylan Stewart, we've added Kyle Kennard and whatnot. So we have some more depth and athleticism, I think, up front, but then particularly at linebacker, with Debo obviously returning, but we really, really like at the linebacker position, really, really like our two freshmen, Wendell Gregory and Fred J.R. Johnson, and then the two linebackers that we brought in, Bengali Kamara and Demetrius Knight. Both those guys, all four of those guys, they They're long, they're athletic, they can run, and they have a lot of position flexibility. So I do believe that whether we're, a 4-2-5 type group or a 3-3 type group, we have the ability to do both because of the increased athleticism, in my mind, up front on the D-line and at linebacker.
We've had a chance to talk about this with some of the other coaches on campus, so curious about your perspective. Just the growing success of all of the programs at South Carolina, how does that impact the conversations that you have with your group?
Yeah, great question. It's great for me personally just to have so many fantastic coaches on our campus that I can pick their brains, and whether it's going to watch Dawn's team practice, which I've done in the past, or go and watch Lamont's team practice, or sit in on film sessions with both their teams, which I've done just to kind of learn from them. But then you talk about all the other, sports as well that have won at a high level and have, Hall of Fame legendary type coaches as well. So it's great and really cool for me personally as just a coach to have those guys as colleagues as well. Our players love it. And I tell recruits that all the time. Like, we have a high expectation level here at South Carolina when you talk about what our women's basketball team is doing and has done, and the fact that we've won national championships in baseball and whatnot, that there's high expectations, and it's a college town, and it's such a recruiting tool for us too, because so many of these young men, I think I talked about it maybe previously in a press conference after we beat Kentucky in basketball back in, what was that, January. So many high school recruits, I was in high schools the next day, and they had watched the game the night before, or they watched Coach Staley's team and are fans of them. The young man that I just had in my office, I talked about that very thing, and I mentioned women's basketball, and immediately they light up and start talking about Coach Staley and our team. So it's great, and they're so supportive of us. One of my favorite moments from last year is when against Mississippi State, when Xavier Legette catches the little underneath route and takes it in for a touchdown, and there's Coach Staley on the sideline wearing a Alshon Jeffrey jersey, waving him into the end zone as well. I mean, it's a family atmosphere here. We support one another. They're so supportive of our program, and we're supportive of all of the programs here at Carolina. It's one thing I love about being on a college campus, and it's great for me personally, and then for our teams too, just to see the success that those other sports are having, and if anything, it motivates us to be in that mix as well, competing for championships like our other teams have.
With so many new faces at receiver, how do you feel like that group's kind of coming along and gelling and all that?
Yeah, there's a lot of new ones. I mean, it really is new coach, new players, freshmen, transfers, doing well. They all had their moments today, without a doubt, but it's a learning process because Coach Furry is getting in here and he's trying to learn the offense and learn who he's coaching and what they're about, and then do for those guys also. But it's an athletic group, without a doubt. They all run well. We saw that in our off season. They run well and they're all athletic. They all catch the ball well, and I'm really excited to see how that group kind of develops over the next 14 practices now, the rest of spring, essentially who separates themselves and who becomes guys, because the production they're bringing into our program, the transfers coming in from other schools, they were very productive where they came from. And then the freshmen that are coming in, talking about DeBron and Mazio, they were very productive where they came from and came from good programs. So they've done a good job, and very young, and it's a very unproven group in a lot of ways. And then there's some guys in there that, are good young players that have been in our program here for a few years too, that it's time for them to, maybe take another step and show that they can be in that group also. So there's a lot of really good competition all across the board, but receivers are right there at the top.
And getting to see the new coaches out there, what was it like? Coach Elliott was pretty intense out there, and just seeing him, Coach Fury, and Coach DeCamelis, we'll get a chance to watch their interaction with the guys. And that.
Yeah, just that intense. They all have their own personalities, and it was great having them out there. Coach Blackwell, Coach Fury, Joe D, and then Sean. All those guys, it was cool, their first practice being out there as well. And I know they were excited also, but probably that's the biggest thing. Joe D, you hear him, you see him, he's everywhere, he's high energy, flying around on the practice field like we all are. His meetings are the same way. They're very, we're maybe not doing movie quotes and history lessons like we have in the past, but it's very, 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 very high energy. There's no dozing off, and there's no losing focus in that meeting, his special teams meetings, that's for sure. So he coaches that way in the meetings. He coaches that way on the field. Same thing with Sean. I mean, he's just what you thought, intense, and in the huddle with the offense today, getting those guys going. And I'm really talking about the young players, and I'm excited about. I'm really, really excited about this coaching staff that we've put together, and things kind of roundabout way of getting there. But at the end of the day, I'm convinced that it all worked out the way that it was supposed to work out, and really like the group. They're great guys and great teachers, and they love being on the field with the players, and they showed that today.
All right, there is Shane Beamer, his first presser after day one of spring practice. We'll come back, give some thoughts on what the coach just yapped about in his press conference. That's coming up next. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, here on The Game.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios, this is 107.5 The Game.
A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory, and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
Plus tax entitled with approved credit. Call 888-320-6359 for details. It's the third week of JT's Kia Mania, and JT's going crazy. Make him an offer. He won't say no to nothing. JT's Kia Mania is your chance to pick up a new Kia at Kia Mania Savings with no down payment and 0 payments till September. JT also has 0% interest. With every new Kia, get a huge cashback check. Rush to Kia Mania, Greystone, or Killian. JT's Kia Mania is back.
Spring has sprung at Carowinds, offering endless fun for families. With almost 60 rides catering to thrill seekers of all ages, including the new Aeronautica Landing. There's something for everyone. Visit Carowinds every weekend this spring and daily for spring break from March 29th to April 7th, featuring The Marvelous Mutts, a thrilling canine spectacular. For a limited time, get tickets as low as $39.99 plus applicable taxes and fees at Carowinds.com. Carowinds, for the fun of it.
Shepherd's Glass has provided commercial, residential, and auto glass installation, repair, and replacement to Columbia for over 50 years. Large retail storefronts, auto, custom shower enclosures, and mirrors for that remodeling or new construction project. Visit shepherdsglass.com to see and learn more. Now with 2 locations on Platte Springs Road in West Columbia and Chapin at 855 Chapin Road. shepherdsglass.com.
Shepherd's Glass. Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
Hey, this is Jen Jensen for CHW Cabinetry. My family is using CHW Cabinetry, and they are fantastic to work with. They make sure you're satisfied with every step of the process. Not only do their photorealistic renderings show exactly what your new space will look like, their job site guarantees everyone is on the same page, literally. Experience the CHW difference for yourself. Go to chwcabinetry.com to see more, or call them at 803-520-6837, and be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation.
Run the Cup, the Lexington Medical Center Governor's Cup Road Race. Be part of history in downtown Columbia at the longest running and most prestigious road race in the Southeast. The Half Marathon, 5K, and Main Street Mile are now open for registration. Kids can run the Cup for free in the Kids Main Street Mile. And don't miss the post-race celebration with music, food, vendors, and a special awards ceremony. Register now for the Lexington Medical Center Governor's Cup Race, April 12th and 13th. Learn more at governorscupsc.org.
Hey Gamecocks, Ben Cato. Cold weather is here now, and if you're like me, that probably means you haven't touched your yard equipment in a while. Don't wait until the weeds are knee-high. The service center at Cato's Power Equipment is here to fix any problem, big or small. Let us keep your tools one pull away from getting you back to work. Mention this ad, and we'll throw in a free oil change and fuel flush on any Toro, Gravely, or Aaron Zero Turn, now through March 31st. Only at Cato's Power Equipment, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, right outside of downtown Columbia.
Spring is in the air, but so are airborne allergens like tree pollen, grass, mold, and ragweed. If spring allergies keep you trapped inside, then you need Navage Nasal Care to keep you breathing clearly and enjoying all the beauties of spring. Navage helps clear nasal passages that are often clogged because of seasonal allergies. Navage gently flushes a pure, refreshing saline solution through your nasal passages to clear out congestion, sucking out that springtime pollen and other irritants trapped in your nose. Navage springs into action quickly, helping you breathe more clearly in just 30 seconds. And you don't need a never-ending cycle of decongestants that can leave you feeling drowsy. Navage is the fast and easy drug-free allergy solution that helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. Get Navage today so you can get outdoors and enjoy your favorite springtime activities. Navage is available online at Navage.com or in stores at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, and Target. Navage, Navage. Breathe easy.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
This is Gamecock quarterback Spencer Rattler, and you're listening to 107.5 The Game, the home of the Gamecocks.
A Cumulus media station.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
Not feeling like yourself? Call the Men's Clinic at 803-875-MENS.
It's 1 o'clock. That means football. Football. And more football. On the Halftime Show.
Is sponsored by Atlantic Window and Door. Go to awdsc.com.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Just popping back in after show Shane Beamer. I was going to call him Coach Shane Beamer, and then Shane Beamer almost came out Shoach or Shane Beamer, but it's football coach Shane Beamer.
Yes, CSB.
Yeah, that guy. Jumping in, doing his first spring practice presser after day one of spring ball, and much to the unhappiness of the media and the fans, Shane said there is no depth chart.
What do you
at
mean?
This point.
What do you mean we don't have all the positions figured out after 2 hours of practice?
What's your deal, Coach? Let's go. We need a depth chart. It's so good how much we love depth charts.
Well, and from what Wes and Chris said, they didn't even do the depth chart drill today.
Mm-hmm.
They did a few things where you got an idea of who was rotating in with the ones, but for the most part, that's going to be a mystery probably for, I guess we'll get one before the spring game, or at least we're going to figure out who's on what teams, which maybe tell you a little bit of something.
I mean, if you sit around, okay, we think we know who the quarterback is, Lenore Sellers, but, there's still a competition because we said this. Robbie Ashford, if this was a heavyweight, championship fight, Ashford would have to knock out Lenore Sellers to win the title.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be head and shoulders better.
Well, and
to get the spot.
And Coach Beamer specifically said that. He's like, look, Lenore's has the most time in the system, the most snaps within this program, more than Ashford, more than Dante Reno, more than Davis Bevel. Like, he is already ahead of these guys, which, again, goes back to the point that Robbie Ashford is going to have to be that much better. If it's a tie goes to the runner is Lenore Sellers.
Exactly, right. Yes. And so we really don't, we think we know the quarterback, but we got to let it play out. We don't know how. We've seen a bunch of transfers come in for the wide receiver room. We think certain guys are going to play, but we don't know who's going to play wide, who's going to play in the slot. Right now, you got Nick Harbor running track, so Nick Harbor's not there in the spring to get those spring football reps. But look, this is what you signed up for when you brought in Nick Harbor. You knew this.
We knew this, and unfortunately, there may be a little bit of delay with his development in year number 2 because he's not there every single day. Beamer did say when he's able to be out there with football, he's going to, but of course there's conflicts, and this guy is a guy that has Olympic aspirations, so you certainly don't want to, hurt those aspirations at all. But again, when you're talking about, especially with so much turnover in the wide receiver room, what kind of step he can make in year number 2, not being out there every day in spring practice is going to hurt him a little bit.
And he's a raw wide receiver to begin with. And Shane made the point, and it's duh, but sometimes we need someone to say this. The last thing you want is Nick Harbor in spring practice running around on the football field, and he gets hit, and all of a sudden he can't participate in track in the spring.
Right.
This is the deal when you brought Nick Harbor in. everybody knew the deal. Shane said in December he met with the track coaches, and they set up the schedule for Nick Harbor. Everybody knew what was up from the beginning.
Right.
So this is not like a what? No, this is what you signed up for with Nicholas Harbor because he has aspirations to be an Olympic sprinter.
Sure.
And if you probably asked him, what would you rather be, an Olympic sprinter or a football player, he might pick Olympic sprinter. That could change. Maybe it's not that. I don't know. Nick and I aren't texting these days. He's busy. So the wide receiver room, we know these guys that are in there in some way, shape, or form are going to get on the field. They're going to get run. We just don't know how much run certain guys are going to get, who's going to play in the slot, who's going out wide. So, again, that's an unknown.
Right.
The offensive line is a gigantic lump of unknown. I mean, Vershawn Lee, we think is going to start. But is he going to start at center? Is he going to move out to tackle? Or is he going to play guard? He can play anywhere.
And he was getting some reps at center today based on the observations when the media was allowed to be out there. And he's really having a guy like that. And again, there's a lot of guys in that offensive line room that are versatile and are able to move around. For a guy like Vershawn Lee, who wherever you put him, he's going to factor into being in the starting five. That's going to be pivotal because, again, you have so many new bodies in the room, so many guys with different levels of experience, both coming in as true freshmen and coming in from the transfer portal. It's going to take a while. And I brought this point up to Wes and Chris earlier. We thought we had a good offensive line going into last season. And yes, you did lose Casey Henry 4 snaps in to game number 1. That didn't help. But then Spencer Rattler got sacked 9 times in game number 1. It's like, oh no. Like, it's one of those things that through practice and scrimmages, you can't always get the best indication of how good those front 5 are until you take on a legitimate opponent, which for South Carolina, you're taking on Old Dominion in week number 1, which, no disrespect to the Monarchs, but they're not Kentucky, the team you see in week number 2. So it may be week number 2 before we really find out how good or bad this offensive line is early on in the season.
Or they're not North Carolina from last year.
Yeah.
By the way, I was rocking back and forth on my heels, and I almost knocked myself over. That would have been great on the live stream.
Yeah, you would have needed to take a trip to men's clinic on that one.
What happened? Where'd Ford go? Oh, he's on the ground. Yeah, I mean, the offensive line, if you look at it right now, and this is just the depth chart, the guessing of our guys, the educated guessing of our guys from Gamecock Central. You got Tree Babalati at left tackle right now, sitting at the 1, Josiah Thompson at the 2. Left guard, Ja'Kai Moore, Marquis Anderson. Everyone's talking about Marquis Anderson.
Yep.
Marquis Anderson going to end up being a starter at guard. But it might not be at left guard.
And he was a guy that got injured last season, and we never got to see him factor in, but there was the common thinking that he was going to be able to get on the field before the injury.
So, Vershawn Lee, right now, penciling at center. If not, Simpkins is put in as the backup. Trevon Ball at right guard, Kamar Bell. That's your depth chart there. A lot of people think Bell could end up being a starter. I mean, Anderson could start at right guard or left guard. I mean, Ja'Kai Moore right now is a starter. Ja'Kai Moore last year was a very mixed bag for Ja'Kai Moore. There were some good moments, and there were some moments of struggle. Sure. So we'll see. And then at right tackle, Casey Henry is right now penciled in. Notice I said penciled.
Yes.
And A.J. Parks, the transfer from Oklahoma, is the backup.
Casey Henry can stay off of the injured list.
Yes. So, this thing is so fluid right now to that point. And so we'll see. But there's no – I think besides Vershawn Lee, nothing else is certain.
Pretty much.
That's how I feel looking at it.
Which, again, we went over this yesterday. You got 16 scholarship bodies in that room.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able, again, pencil in Vershawn Lee somewhere, should be able to carve out 4 other guys out of 15, knock on wood, assuming everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, and you look back at it real quick. Again, Tree and Ball had their struggles because they shouldn't have been on the field last year.
Yeah.
Should not have been on the field.
But how beneficial is that they did get on the field?
Get ready to say. Now you say this. This is the way this works, right? Last year you're like, well, these guys are struggling. They shouldn't be on the field. Now you do this. Well, they got experience last year, so thank God they were on the field to help them in year 2.
Exactly.
And that's where it's at with those two. How much better will they be in year 2? That remains to be seen. But that's the one positive of those struggles last year is they were actually on the field playing in SEC games, even though we all know that in a perfect world they wouldn't have been.
Sure.
So this offensive line is again, that's another one, question mark. So right now on offense, a little question mark at quarterback, even though you think you know what you think, right?
I think
so too. Offensive line, question marks everywhere. Wide receiver, you have a good idea who's going to play. You just don't know where they're going to play. Running back, if Rocket Sanders is healthy, this is a no-brainer, and he's not going to play in the spring.
Right. You got him on the shelf until you absolutely need to break him out, which will be in the fall. I mean, the biggest question is who's going to be that number 2 guy. I mean, you have Attaway, who's played a lot of football in his time in North Texas. Jordan Howell balled out in one season at South Carolina State.
He's a very interesting dude. He averaged, 65 yards a carry. It was ridiculous at South Carolina State. And I think I've heard people talk about him where he just kind of popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah, he flew under everyone's radar, and, you can be skeptical, oh, this guy's coming from FCS. There's a lot of FCS guys that just weren't looked at the same way coming out of high school that can play at this level.
Or they were looked at a certain way, and then they did this thing called develop and get bigger and stronger and faster.
So, and it's... You would love to obviously have Rocket Sanders out here for spring practice, going through the spring game and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that, he's not out there, and again, he's experienced. He's been on the SEC for a long time. When he's healthy and 100%, you don't worry about him. He's going to be fine. These other 2 guys, though, getting up to speed, in addition to DJ Braswell in another year, in addition to Matthew Fuller coming in as true freshman, that's allowing more reps for these guys at 1 or whatever it may be, getting up to speed on playing at this level.
And we didn't bring up? Juju McDowell. He's there too.
And I believe he got the first rep at running back, being the senior most guy, obviously. But he's coming back from the collarbone injury. And I felt like last season, I think it was the Vanderbilt game that he got hurt in, it seemed like Dow Loggins was finally starting to utilize him a little bit more. Obviously, he's got good hands, was able to catch out of the backfield. I believe the play they got hurt on was a reception out of the backfield. But he's a guy that could be an unknown factor in this offense in a variety of ways based on what we saw towards the end of last season.
We've been talking about Juju McDowell for 3 years on this show, of a guy that if you give him the ball in space, he can do some stuff for you. The thing is, he's not going to be a yak yard guy. I mean, you watched it last year. God love Juju. He's out there in space. He makes a play, gains some yards, and then a defender just grabs him and sits him down and go, okay, bud, that's enough of that. He's not a big guy. He's not a heavy guy. But if you get him the ball where he has room to operate, he can give you some stuff, in the passing game, especially. And you can move him around the formation. Put him in the slot, put him in motion, do a lot of stuff with him. And you're right. About the time he was getting hurt, it seemed like Dow Loggins, because remember, the running back thing had to play itself out, remember?
Sure.
And so by the time it all shuffled itself out, then Juju was getting more run, and then he got hurt. And the wide receivers, right now, Gage Larvadain, look at us, maybe we said it right.
I believe so.
Tyshawn Russell, out wide, that's the 1 and the 2. Then you got Amari Huggins-Bruce, out wide, and then Peyton Mangrum. We'll see how it goes in the slot. Jared Brown, Luke Doty. We forget to talk about Luke Doty all the time. Luke Doty had moments where he caught the football last year, and you went, that guy should be a wide receiver.
Yeah, and according to today, he still had on the green quarterback jersey, but was taking a lot of reps with wide receiver. So he's still, to some degree, splitting time between the 2 positions, even though the quarterback room is filled out. And it may be a situation where until you feel completely comfortable with, say Robbie Ashford being the backup, that you still have Luke Doty doing some wide receiver or some quarterback stuff until it's like, okay, we got this figured out. Go be a wide receiver.
And I think that he will be more of a wide receiver as everything goes on. Because the thing about it, Tyler, watching him play quarterback, I know it's spring game. I get it. But just watching him play the position and then watching him play wide receiver, he looked much more comfortable playing wide receiver.
Well, and he's very athletic.
Yes.
And you saw that from his time at quarterback. So he can do a variety of things, on the, around 6 foot tall, so kind of your perfect slot type of guy. And somebody else that, again, could factor into playing time now that this is a whole new wide receiver room. And you want him to get as much time at wide receiver as possible to see what he can do.
Yeah, because I think it's something very interesting there with Doty at wide receiver. All right, we'll get back in here. Yap some more about this team. Look at the defensive side of the ball and discuss more of what Shane Beamer just said in his first spring practice presser. Come back, we'll get into that. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We are hanging here on the halftime show here on The Game.
The Game Network. The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV.
Got something to say?
Ring us up on the Love Chevy phone line. South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer.
At 803-404-6100.
Your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Discover Herndon Certified. Herndon Chevrolet's premier used car warranty. Shop with complete confidence knowing Herndon Chevrolet has got you covered.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
There's something remarkable about the University of South Carolina. It's in the labs, where researchers are discovering ways to make communities healthier and stronger. It's in the nation's best first-year student experience, in top-ranked programs in nursing and health sciences. It's where more South Carolina students have access to higher education than ever before. Because when you stand for something bigger than yourself, you can create something that benefits us all. Behold, the remarkable we.
Hello, this is Keith Gramad with Chapin Furniture. I've already secured tickets to the second round of a very important tournament that takes place this month. And if you're wondering, no, it's not the St. Patty's Day clover eating contest.
Keith, I don't think you can eat clover, and I think we know which tournament you're referring to.
I'm hoping to get lucky and see the Gamecocks play. And yes, you can eat clover. Look it up.
Okay, Mr. Clover. Why don't you just share about the madness taking place at Chapin Furniture right now?
Chapin Furniture's Motion Madness sale is in full swing in the month of March. Furniture that reclines, swivels, rocks, or glides, all on sale now. Save up to 20% on brand new orders.
Chapin Furniture's Motion Madness sale going on through March 30th. Shop online at chapinfurniture.com or take I-26 to exit 91A in Chapin and look for the big red chair.
Hey there, Columbia. All of us at Village Idiot Pizza would like to congratulate Dawn Staley, Lamont Paris, and both their teams on a phenomenal regular season, and thank you for the memories. Speaking of making memories, come make some with us at either Village Idiot location, 5 Points or Olympia at the Mills. Together, all postseason long, let's cheer on our Gamecocks. You may call it one thing, but we call it the third month of the calendar craziness.
Join Angry Fish Brewing Company this week as they celebrate St. Patty's Day in style. They're excited to announce the release of 4 new beers: Snug Harbor 80 shillings, a Scottish Ale, Tight Lines Irish Red, Roundabout ESB, Extra Special Bitter, and Pints O Gold Irish Pale Ale. And that's not all. They'll have live music with Eric Flanders on Saturday from 7 to 10, along with delicious food available every day. Make your way to Angry Fish on Fabrister Lane in Lexington this week for a St. Patty's Day celebration you won't forget. Remember, at Angry Fish, we drink all we can and sell the rest. Have a passion for serving children and families? Apply to become a child welfare case manager at dss.sc.gov. This message is sponsored by the South Carolina Department of Social Services.
Honey, would you take a seat? I have a confession to make.
What is it? What's wrong?
Well, I was out driving today and I saw some hookers on the side of the road. A bunch of huge, professional, beautiful-looking hookers. So I did what I was supposed to do. I slowed down and I moved over.
You slowed down for the hookers?
Well, yeah, it's the law. There was a whole fleet of Schroeder's towing trucks assisting with an accident. Wait, what did you think I was talking about?
Schroeder's Towing reminds you to slow down and move over for all first responders.
Schroeder's Towing, the best and fastest hookers in town.
What's up, Gamecocks? Ben Cato, proud third-generation owner of Cato's Power Equipment. If you're a landscaper looking to grow your business in 2024, or you're just ready for an upgrade, consider our amazing lineup of stand-up mowers from Gravely and Toro. From the affordable, extremely durable Gravely Z-Stance to the time-tested Toro Grandstand. These mowers offer better ergonomics, safer hill cutting, and the same great cut you come to expect from a top-class zero-turn. Let us upgrade your fleet today. Come see us at Cato's Power Equipment.
Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100.
Your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence. The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach
and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
and the 107.5 The Game app.
Football, and football in the 1 o'clock hour on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. We just kind of went over the offense. We're going to spin over to the defense. Just some thoughts after we heard Shane Beamer's first presser of the spring. Basically, there's no depth chart yet. Sorry. Shane raved about a couple of the young defensive players. We'll get to that in a minute as we start to focus on the D. I just want to stay on the offense for one more, just another couple minutes. Dow Loggins was hanging out with Tyler and Wes and Chris at Pro Day.
Yep.
Dow is very good at conversation.
Oh, Dow is. He could have talked for an hour. We did understand he was out there to watch Spencer Rattler, so we did let him go after 15 minutes. But honestly, I could have sat there and talked to Dow all day.
Dow's great to talk to. We talked to him at Pro Day last year. Had him on at the Birdies for Beamer.
Yep.
Birdies with Beamer. And he's great to talk to. He can talk ball all day.
I appreciate his honesty. Jack Belcher from Gamecock Central was also out there with him, and asked him a question pertaining to the running game, and he said, the running game wasn't what you hoped it would be. He's like, no, we know it was terrible. You can say that. It's okay. Like, he's not beating around the bush. He's not afraid to be honest, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too. He's very. How about this? Very refreshing to talk to.
Yes.
Dow Loggins.
Yes, he is.
All right, let's get to Dow talking. Speaking of talking and Dow Loggins, cut 11, Tyler. Changing the offense based on quarterback skills.
Well, you're studying, you're looking, you're going on previous experiences. Like, hey, I go back if it's one of these more athletic guys. Like, we've had success with Vince Young, who's went to the Pro Bowl 3 years in a row, Rookie of the Year when we were coaching him in Tennessee. Like, KJ Jefferson when we were at Arkansas. You're trying to build an offense around the skill set of your players, and it's number one. The hardest thing in all this is to identify the players and their strengths. All right, and it would have been really easy for me to come in here last year and say, yeah, Leggett, he hadn't done anything in 4 years. Like, how are we going to count on this guy? I mean, my job is to find out the strength of each player and then make sure we're maximizing him and using him in the best possible situation to help this football team. So the challenge for every coach is determine the strengths of each player. There's a way to win every game, and sometimes it's really hard to find that. I learned that from Coach Parcells a long time ago, and that's our job. We got to figure out our strengths, play to our strengths, and hide our weaknesses.
Not every coach thinks that way, Dow. Just going to get that out. Not every coach thinks we've got to build our schemes and systems to the strengths of our players. So when you say that, you go like this. Oh, yeah, there you go. There's a guy that gets it.
It's one of those things where he's always done it that way, obviously, and he probably can't envision doing it any other way. So if you think about another coach that isn't building an offense based around the skills of his best player, then it's like, what are you doing?
It felt like a couple years ago that was the case here.
And that's why if Matt Rule did not scoop up Marcus Satterfield, he may have gotten some walking papers at the end of 2022.
I've got a feeling that Matt Rule did Shane Beamer a huge solid.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was too upset seeing that one go.
Yeah. By the way, you got a gig with in Nebraska. I'm getting you an Uber. Help you out. Help you pack. We'll get everything together.
Oh, no, don't go as you're packing up his first box.
Starting his car.
By the way, I got the moving truck outside.
Hey, it's on me.
It's on me.
It's
right.
on me. All right, but that's what you do. Spencer Rattler and Lenore Sellers have a totally different skill set.
Yes.
The same thing with Robbie Ashford and Spencer Rattler have a totally different skill set.
It's going to change the identity of your offense.
Yes. You got quarterbacks who their legs are in play here. And you got to build your offense around that. You can't ask Lenore Sellers to be Spencer Rattler like you can't ask Spencer Rattler to be Lenore Sellers or Robbie Ashford. It would have been silliness. So, yes, that's what you do. And when you hear a coach recognize that, because and look, it's getting better. I really believe it's getting better. But for years, you'd hear a coach, well, you're going to run my offense because that's my offense. You're going to run it because that's my way. That's my offense. But this guy, he can't run. Well, he's going to learn how to run in my offense. No, he's not.
You should never force the square peg into a round hole.
Never. And so when hearing Dow Loggins talk like that, and that's when his introductory presser, he was talking like that, and you're like, oh, if you're a Gamecock fan, thank you.
Right.
Thank you, football gods. All right, so moving on to the defense now. We'll start defense here and move it to the next segment. Defensively, and we'll start where Shane was really kind of out there in conversation. We really talked about the defense as a whole. And we'll save the linebackers here in a minute, but he discussed the defensive line. And yes, especially the interior, you got veteran dudes who, look, Tonka Hemingway, there are times Tonka Hemingway, man, you're like, God, that guy can play. And also Alex Huntley at times last year really popped and had some good performances. You know, TJ Sanders against Georgia was a game wrecker in the first half.
Right.
Now you add DeAndre Jules, another veteran from Pitt. You've got a very solid, experienced interior of your defensive line. Guys who have been solid or really good at times. You feel good about the middle of your defensive line. You really do. And the edge, we talked about the edge yesterday. There was not consistent production last year from the edge of this defensive front. Kyle Kennard can bring it. Brought it at Georgia Tech. Kyle Kennard, he's going to put heat on quarterbacks. Gilbert Edmond showed promise 2 years ago at South Carolina before he went to Florida State. Now Edmond's back. JT Gear, you were hoping to see more, but it seemed like it got better as the year went along.
Sure.
And you hope he gets even better in year two. And Brian Thomas, another guy, every now and then flashes something, Tyler, where you go, interesting. It's just not consistent enough. Need consistency from this room. We didn't even talk about Dylan Stewart or our buddy Dez.
Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities there, and I'm watching some of the clips of Dylan Stewart. First time in a Gamecock uniform out there practicing today, and he looks every bit the athlete that he was built up to be as the 5-star coming out of high school. But it's going to be a long process this summer of kind of figuring out, and spring as well, figuring out how to utilize these guys, who's going to get snaps where. And it's not like you don't have the bodies in the room and the capable athletes there to fill this spot, but just kind of figuring out who's going to be able to do what. And again, it's going to be one of those things that I don't think we're going to truly know until we get into actual competition this season how effective it is.
And we talked about, because the reason we started this was question marks, because there's question marks all over the offense.
Sure.
Defensively, you're good in the interior. You get what you got there. There's not a lot of question mark in the interior.
The biggest question mark is how you're going to divvy up the snap counts.
Right, exactly. The edge, I think a guy like Kyle Kennard brings known production.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a question mark.
At a Power 5 level.
Yes. Gilbert Edmond, you got a good idea of Edmond 2 years ago, and you hope maybe you're getting a more mature, even better version of Gilbert Edmond.
Sure.
Again, JT Gear, it seemed to click in more as the year went along. Still a lack of consistency, but you saw something. And then Brian Thomas, you're hoping, but last year you were saying, okay, we hope that there's more consistency.
Sure.
And then Dylan Stewart, like you said, you're sitting there, just please bring some pop off the edge as a freshman. But here's the good news. He doesn't have to, because you have depth.
He doesn't have to. Would you like to see glimpses? Sure, when he's out there on the field. If he can get a sack or two this season, fantastic, and that gives you a good feeling about what's to come. You don't want him to be the ghost if he's out there on the field and saying, wow, Dylan Stewart got X amount of snaps this season and didn't do anything with any of them.
Probably burned up a lot of eligibility for nothing.
Exactly. You want to at least see glimpses of him being that guy that he's been built up to be. But again, he doesn't have to go out there and be the best end that you have this season. You have other guys in the room, more experienced guys that can take that role. Again, you just want to see production out of somebody.
And again, our boy Des Yu, we've stopped talking about him because he was a 4-star last year. Again, he's the guy that looks like a pass rusher when he comes off the bus, but we'll see.
He was on the field because there were several times watching games like, all right, there he is. He didn't do anything.
But how about this? There were times you went, wow, he played that many snaps?
Sure.
I didn't even notice it.
The checking snap counts after the game, he was one of those guys that you routinely were like, wow, he's out there that many times?
I did not know that because, again, he just didn't. He's a freshman, and he just.
And again, it wasn't just him. It was everybody at that spot. We're not just picking on him.
No, I mean, at the edge, you did that a lot. You would go, wow, that guy played? Didn't really. JT Gear, I'll be honest. And I'm not picking on anybody, but there were times I said, Gear played that much?
Strawn was the one guy that stuck out of that group. And he had his moments, flash here and there. And again, veteran guy, been around for a while, makes sense. But everybody else in there was just like,
And Strawn even had moments where he was on the field, but he just wasn't making a splash play or a big play or getting heat on quarterbacks.
Sure.
And it just the whole edge position left you wanting more last year, to be fair.
Absolutely.
All right, and there's not really question marks there. It's just how is it going to shake itself out? But there's a lot of depth of possibilities. Do not forget, come on out Thursday. We're going to be hanging at Twin Peaks, do the halftime show from a little extended version till 3:30. I'll be out there. Tyler will be out there. I think Jay Phillips is going to come hang out with us because he's got nothing better to do.
Right.
And Jay will be out there. We're going to roll till 3:30 till men's hoops NCAA tournament first round. South Carolina taking on Oregon. Come on out about 11:30ish if you want, because we're going to start handing out teams. 68 of them. You get a team, hold on to it. If your team wins a national title, you get South Carolina Gamecock baseball season tickets for the rest of the year. We'll have other giveaways as well. If your team gets a 16, you get something. 4.
If you draw Yale, don't throw it away, please.
Keep it.
Keep it.
Because it might win you something. And that's at Twin Peaks in the Vista. Come on out and get your team. All right, we'll get back in here, continue the conversation on the defense. 2 interesting names that Shane brought up at linebacker. We will get into that next. Also hear from some Clayton White from Pro Day. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, running till 3 on the game.
The Game Network. The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV. Ever been on this date?
You're a good-looking man.
Thank you.
Very pretty. Real soft, delicate features. They're real feminine.
And thought, man, I'd rather be listening to The Game right now.
Welcome in to the afternoon show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips.
Well, just go to iTunes or Google Play and download the Game app. Sure, you may no longer be with that person anymore, but you'll never be without the game again.
Spring is in the air, and it's the perfect time to give your home a refresh. At Dan's Fan City in Harbison, we're celebrating spring cleaning with amazing deals on floor samples, closeouts, and overstocks. Whether you're looking to upgrade your ceiling fans or add a new one to your space, Dan's Fan City has you covered. Stop by our store or give us a call at 781-FANS to take advantage of these fantastic offers. Don't miss out on the chance to save big and elevate your home's comfort and style with Dan's Fan City on Harbison Boulevard.
It's postseason basketball time, which means it's time for some watch parties cheering on the Gamecocks, and nothing beats a watch party spread of delicious Firehouse Subs. Whether it's a small party of 5 or you've invited the entire neighborhood, Firehouse Subs has you covered. Order in advance online at firehousesubs.com or tap on Rapid Rescue in the Firehouse Subs app, which is your best way to get great Firehouse rewards. Be the champion of your watch party this season only with Firehouse Subs.
Now you see them. That's right, those weeds in your grass. And that's because you didn't have Midland's Landscape and Lawns treat your lawn. Hey, this is Paul Romanstein, proud owner of Midland's Landscape and Lawns. Let us take care of those weeds in the grass. Let us get that grass healthy and ready for this season. You know you want a green plush lawn? Let the pros take care of it. Somebody who's local, somebody dependable, and somebody that cares. That's Midland's Landscape and Lawns. You can find us at hateweeds.com. hateweeds.com.
This is Larry Leitner, owner and founder of Midstate Roofing, and for nearly 30 years, we've continued to be the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Midstate Roofing's proven history is your assurance that our professionals at Midstate Roofing will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. From high-rise to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And this is Blake Leitner, reminding you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Call me today at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. That's midstateroofing.com.
You'll speak to an on-call technician after hours or a Midstate Roofing staff member during hours at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. And as always, tell them Midstate Twins.
If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Spring has sprung at Carowinds, offering endless fun for families. With almost 60 rides catering to thrill seekers of all ages, including the new Aeronautica Landing. There's something for everyone. Visit Carowinds every weekend this spring and daily for spring break from March 29th to April 7th, featuring The Marvelous Mutts, a thrilling canine spectacular. For a limited time, get tickets as low as $39.99 plus applicable taxes and fees at Carowinds.com. Carowinds, for the fun of it.
Join Angry Fish Brewing Company this week as they celebrate St. Paddy's Day in style. They're excited to announce the release of 4 new beers: Snug Harbor 80 Shillings, a Scottish Ale, Tight Lines Irish Red, Roundabout ESB, Extra Special Bitter, and Pints O Gold Irish Pale Ale. And that's not all. They'll have live music with Eric Flanders on Saturday from 7 to 10, along with delicious food available every day. Make your way to Angry Fish on Fabrister Lane in Lexington this week for a St. Paddy's Day celebration you won't forget. Remember, at Angry Fish, we drink all we can and sell the rest. Join the Lexington Medical Center Foundation on Saturday, April 20th at the Pastides Alumni Center for the McDaniels Golf Classic Gala, featuring live and silent auctions, Capital City catering, and live music by the Crystal Clear Band. Proceeds benefit the McDaniels Pucci Cancer Fund and support programs and services at Lexington Medical Cancer Center, from diagnosis to survivorship. Purchase your tickets today at McDanielsGolfClassic.com.
What you're talking about.
Brought to you by Love Chevy. Check out the Season of Love at South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer, I-26 in Harbison, and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Football, the 1 o'clock hour here on the halftime show on The Game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, we're hanging up until 3. Charwood, April 5th, right, Tyler? April 5th is our big golf tournament.
Final Four weekend.
How cool is that?
Big weekend. WrestleMania weekend.
Even better.
I got a lot going on.
Tell you what, man. I think, what do you think? National champion basketball team in the cage versus Roman Reigns.
Oh. Hey, I proud of you for acknowledging the tribal chief.
By the way, there's a great story. I'm going to hijack real quick.
All right.
Paul Heyman was at the...
Paul Heyman.
I call him Heyman. Paul Heyman was at our little summit thing.
Was he really?
In New York. He had a session.
Yeah.
Do you know where that all came from, the tribal chief with Roman Reigns?
A tribal chief.
That whole character thing, that whole move for Roman Reigns?
I know it's been done before.
It came from a movie.
Really?
A little bit before your time.
What's that?
Called Apocalypse Now.
Oh, I see.
It was a cool story he told. I won't kill everything by telling it.
Paul's a great talker. I'm jealous that you got to listen to him.
Paul is fantastic. They had a great shot of him in the early days when they were doing ECW or whatever.
Oh yeah, the Hammerstein Ballroom, New York.
And they had and they were getting no love or support. They wanted to get off that network, and he did a great promo, basically trashing the network.
Oh yeah,
it was phenomenal.
I will have to send you perhaps his best promo.
Okay.
During the invasion angle back in 2001.
The best thing is he had all that long hair back then, and now he has no hair.
Sort of like me. That's right.
Hey, sort of like me. Anyway, so Charwood, April 5th, our spring golf outing. This thing sells out fast, and we're going to have some fun, give away some stuff like South Carolina baseball tickets. You can putt for prizes. It's going to be fun. 803-755-2000. You call Charwood with Rock and the guys. We'll have food from, I believe, Old Timey Meats. I mean, $400 for a foursome, $200 for a pair, 10 o'clock shotgun start. We'll be out there doing shows. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's our spring golf tournament, April 5th at Charwood. Again, 803-755-2000. All right. To football, because we talk football in the 1 o'clock hour. And Mike Uva at 2:15, by the way, Gamecock Central, driving to Pittsburgh as we speak, getting ready for the men in the first round of the NCAA tournament against Oregon on Thursday. All right, so as we've been saying, there's so many question marks with this football team. We started this conversation because Shane said basically there's no depth chart when he did his presser at 12:30 today here in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. And we're just going over how many question marks there are on this football team. And so far, there's a ton of them, especially on offense.
Enough to cover the Riddler's bodysuit. How many question marks did he have?
Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you going all Riddler. Very nice. Now, is this the movie Riddler or the TV show Riddler?
The one Jim Carrey played in the movies had, I think, more question marks on him.
That was good.
So he did very well.
All right, so linebacker, it's not question mark of who they're going to be playing because you feel, Debo Williams is going to play.
Sure.
And Debo he's so boom or bust. When he's boom, he's getting tackles for loss, making havoc plays. And when it's not going well, he's going to the wrong gap, and there's a big play. But Debo has gotten much better because, again, he's another guy who needed to develop raw athleticism, and it's going to be interesting to see what Debo Williams is this coming up season because he did get better last year from the year before.
Sure.
And if he continues development, this guy could be a really, really high-level linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of the best tacklers in the SEC last season, which certainly goes a long way. But, these past couple of years, he's had the compliment of Stone Blanton playing next to him. Now doesn't have that anymore, and we doesn't have the guy that we thought was going to be stepping up into more of a role this season in Pup Howard, who's now gone to Florida.
I'll say this. There's nothing against Stone Blanton, but I think who you've added from the transfer portal will be an upgrade in however you play it.
It seems that way. Listening to J.C. Sherbert on this morning with Bill and Preston talking about guys like Knight and Kamara coming in at linebacker, two speedy guys, bringing you a lot of speed in the middle of that defense.
Yeah. Look, Stone Blanton had a couple of big plays last year for South Carolina. But if you looked at Stone, again, watching the game, looking at the grades.
He's not a sideline-to-sideline guy.
No, Stone Blanton is a guy that, the things he could do well, but he was limited in what he could do. And athletically, he wasn't going to be the guy flying around like a Demetrius Knight or a Bengali Kamara. It's just, I think they're better at this point. And Stone Blanton, look, God love him. He could go off and be really good at Mississippi State. No one's saying he couldn't be.
Sure.
But from what we saw of Stone Blanton these last couple of years, especially last year when he really got his opportunity, I think Kamara and Knight could be an upgrade. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then you have Wendell Gregory, the freshman, and Shane brought up Wendell Gregory and Fred Johnson in the presser, two freshman linebackers who are athletic guys who can run around and do stuff. We'll see what kind of run they get or don't get, because, again, in a perfect world, you want to save eligibility if you don't need to use it.
You would think, yes.
So we'll see what happens. But those two guys, Shane named them today in the presser, talking about how happy he is with what he's seen from them so far. But you're going to see Debo and Knight and Kamara. Mo Kaba is another question mark. God love him.
He's trying.
Such a good guy, too. We've had him here a few times. You root for dudes like Mo Kaba because he's a really nice guy. And he just, can't stay on the field.
Unfortunately,
can't stay on the field. So we'll see what happens there. That's a bit of a question mark, but mostly the linebackers, you've got better depth than you've had the last couple of years, and guys who have track records of being productive in what they do.
Yes.
And we didn't talk about Bam Martin Scott. That defense totally changed when they went 3-3-5 and went to Bam Martin Scott, and he started rushing the passer and creating some havoc. The defense got a lot better, and so we're going to see some more Bam Martin Scott. There's no doubt. Especially coming off the edge. Now, let's talk about that real quick before we get into a break. Here is Clayton White discussing being better with that 3-3-5 that South Carolina went to at the end of last year, and the defense totally improved. Cut 15, Tyler.
And 4-2-5 is, to me, I think, obviously, we cut down on the big plays. So I would say we was averaging 7 or 8 big plays a game. And then once we kind of switched that over, I think Kentucky had 2. I think Clemson had 2, and Vanderbilt might have had 1. So that's the big thing. Explosive plays really is a big outcome of the win-loss outcome of a football game. And our guys were able to have a little bit more fun. It was just a little bit more. Obviously, it was new for the offense, so let's remember we got to add that part as well. Some of those teams weren't ready for it. And then we did run some of it starting this Texas A&M game. But obviously it takes time. We only practice 2 days a week, so to get the defense kind of oiled up, I need a couple games to kind of do that. But the last 4 games, that definitely was my plan to say we need to win those 4 games. I'd say, give us the best chance to win. We got to switch things up.
And, Shane has talked about it in the offseason, Tyler, that I'd have a little sit down.
You did.
And say, Clayton, what's up, man? We got to do something because this ain't working the way it's going right now.
And while, unfortunately, they didn't win all 4 of those games, lost to Clemson, obviously, in the last week of the regular season, when you look at the numbers purely in the month of November, South Carolina's defense was one of the best in the SEC, I believe second only to Texas A&M in terms of overall yardage and everything like that. So they took significant steps forward as the season went along, which is why Clayton White's still your defensive coordinator. If they did the status quo from October and September in November, he probably wouldn't be.
Well, I think you don't make that change to 3-3-5. I think you have a new defensive coordinator. And I hate to say it, 'cause I love Clayton.
Sure.
Really, but that's the truth. That 3-3-5 fit that defense.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you unleashed a Bam Martin Scott, and he was making plays and putting heat on quarterbacks.
And from what Clayton White said, it's not going to be the base of your defense. They still want to run that flex nickel where you can be in a 4-2-5 and switch to a 3-3-5 as needed. You know, kind of think of it like the 1-3-1 with Lamont Paris in basketball, kind of not necessarily in your back pocket and only break out in the case of emergency, but pepper it in and not using it on every single play.
Yeah, I think the tweaks that they made in that last month, because remember, the Clemson game, you lose, but you don't give up an offensive touchdown.
Yeah, well, great defensive performance.
Yeah. And you just lose the game because, your offense couldn't get anything going. All right, we'll get back in here. Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100, and we'll continue yapping about the defense as well. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We're here till 3 on the game.
The Game Network.
The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV. 107.5 The Game on demand podcast menu.
Sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
If you're dealing with injuries or pain, our team is here to get you better sooner.
On the home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
This is Jim Rome with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by LL Flooring. LL Flooring, every step covered. I'm actually going to miss the NBA regular season, where Kyrie Irving went skyhook with his left hand to win it. But that's not what I'm going to miss. What I am going to miss is Wemby. No joke, I cannot get enough of this guy. I love watching him hoop. I'm Jim Rome. CBS Sports Minute.
At LL Flooring, we've been a trusted partner to pros for over 30 years. With over 400 nationwide warehouses full of in-stock, job-ready inventory, you'll get what you need. And our exclusive pro pricing means that pros never pay retail. Because at LL Flooring, all we do is floors. So we're going to do it right. Sign up for a free pro account today to start getting pro benefits. LL Flooring, every step covered.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
When Cynthia came to TurboTax, she just launched her new side gig, a true crime podcast.
I'm a first-rate detective with a golden voice.
As her TurboTax expert, I made her second income count by guaranteeing 100% accurate filing and her maximum refund.
What did she do with that refund? Find out next week.
Switch to Intuit TurboTax and make your moves count. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
People who come to Cricket stay with Cricket, just like our customer Jaron.
I'm the singer and guitarist in a band, and I use my Cricket phone for everything. It's basically like another band member.
Don't miss a single beat. Switch today and get a free Samsung Galaxy A14 5G. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Real customer paid for testimonial. Must bring your number to Cricket on up to a $60 a month voice plan depending on device. Select models only while supplies last. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See store for details.
Clogged, overflowing gutters can cost thousands of dollars in damage to your home's foundation. Canty Foundation can replace your gutters and save you money.
Canty installs gutter shutter.
Call us today for your free inspection.
Canty can fix it.
Having a reliable gutter system is essential to protecting your home's interior and exterior. Heavy rain can unleash gallons of water onto your home, and poorly maintained or leaky gutters could lead to roofing, siding, and water damage that is expensive to repair or replace. Online at candygutters.com.
Bill Gunner for Dr. Dan Balknight and the Men's Clinic. Getting older is never fun. You start experiencing some symptoms that you're not accustomed to. Maybe it's brain fog. Maybe it's low energy level. Maybe it's lack of drive and motivation. But at the Men's Clinic, Dr. Dan Balknight is ready to help you with an individualized treatment that will treat your needs. So give them a phone call today, 803-875-MENS. Again, that's 803-875-MENS, or visit them on the web for more information, mensclinicsc.com.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
All right, time for our Firehouse Subtext the hour at 803-446-100. What do you get there, Tyler Head?
Yeah, so we were just talking that last segment about the linebacker spot, and Coach Beamer mentioned in his presser about an hour ago, Mo Kaba is not doing anything right now. As far as spring practice goes, obviously going to be hopeful that he's going to be good to go when the fall rolls around. Our guy Ben Cato from Cato's Power Equipment says, totally biased. Felt good to hear that Mo Kaba will be back next year. Don't care how many snaps. A guy who has cared to come back from three knee injuries. Dude has guts and is disciplined for days.
Yeah, Mo Kaba and Ben, always good hearing from you, bud. Appreciate you, Ben Cato. Yeah, Mo Kaba is such a good guy. That's the thing. Yeah. He's been here a few times. He's been here with Ben, and he's such a nice person. You root for guys like that. And when he got hurt, I was like, you're always bummed when guys get hurt, but I was like, oh, not again, because he just went through the knee thing.
And it's not only getting hurt; it's getting hurt early in the season. In 2022, it was the Arkansas game, which was game 2 or 3 on the year. Last year was literally the first game against North. It may have been it on the first drive, and it was on special teams. But it was very early on in the game, so he's not even getting like a decent amount of snaps into the season before these injuries happen. So, and then you're on the shelf for the entire year, and again, still working back from it. So, it does speak a lot to his character for him repeatedly trying to come back, and let's just hope that this year finally works out for him.
Yeah, because there's some guys who go like this. Enough, man. I'm done. Yeah, I'm just going to go to class. I'm done. But Mo Kaba keeps coming back. And I remember he was playing really well 2 years ago, and then got hurt in the Arkansas game. And you're right. Last year, I think first special teams,
and it was a non-contact. I think he was either coming off the field or just running, and just one of those freak kind of things that happens.
Yeah. So we're with Ben Cato. We all root for Mo Kaba. Absolutely. Sure. Thank you, Ben. 803-446-100. Hit us up on the Firehouse Subtext. Let me do our Firehouse Subtext the hour on Twitter X. We got our Twitter X poll going here. Tyler Head talking about basketball. Poll question of the day: will the results of the NCAA tournament change your feelings about the Gamecock season? Nope. Happy to be in the tournament. Or, hey, with 26 wins, you got to get at least a W. It's kind of close. It's split almost. 55% just happy they're in the tournament. 45% say you got to get a win.
And I can see both sides of the equation, because you don't want to feel like you wasted what was a really good season. But at the same time, nobody expected this.
Yeah.
And if you would have told anybody back in November, hey, you're going to win 26 games in the regular 25 in the regular season, win 1 game at the tournament, and then just make the NCAA tournament, I don't think most people would have cared what happened after that. You could have gotten blown out 100-0 in the first game and be like, wow, that's still an amazing season. But living in it in the moment, knowing what we know about this team, what they're capable of, if you got bounced by Oregon, especially in like a dominating way, then you would feel a little bit let down.
See, I think, first of all, for me, I would be like, I'm good.
Sure.
Made the tournament. You're picked last in the SEC or 13th, depending on what poll, and you basically shock the conference by almost winning the SEC, and you're in the NCAA tournament. To me, it's a great year. It's been phenomenal. Whatever happens in the dance, it happens in the dance. But that would be me.
To me, when it comes to judging how good a season is, it comes down to one question. Did you meet or exceed the expectations that were put upon you? And the answer is overwhelmingly yes. This team far exceeded those expectations. So, yes, we all hope they make a deep run in the tournament. But for me, this season is good regardless.
Yeah, I always look at it this way. You can have two feelings. You can have the feeling at the moment and then the big picture feeling.
Yeah.
The feeling of the moment, let's say you play Oregon, you get beat, a buzzer beater beats you, and you were right there. And you're disappointed, whatever. Or let's say that you had an opportunity to win the game and you didn't execute or whatever it is.
Sure.
In that moment, you can be bummed, you can be upset, you can break the game down, say, should have did this, should have did that, why'd you do this and all that, and you can have that moment where you're like, what the bleep?
Right.
But then once you relax and the buzz wears off, then you can go, you know what, though? It's kind of disappointed how that game ended in the NCAA tournament, but this season as a whole, phenomenal.
Sure.
I feel like you can be both. You can be in the moment person, and then you can be big picture person after you get out of the moment.
I was going to say, it's easier to look back, a couple months from now, or as we're going into next season, say, as tough as that loss was, it was still a fun season, still a good season, and all that kind of stuff. So, again, I see both sides of the coin.
Losing in any way, shape, or form to Oregon doesn't change the win in Knoxville.
No.
Doesn't change beating Kentucky at home. Doesn't change, going to Starkville and pulling a hard W.
And it's one of those things, and yes, you're going to have a lot of turnover with this roster this offseason, but I think everybody collectively believes like this is the start of something. It's not, 1 year flash in the pan, we're going to go back down to the bottom of the SEC next year. Like, no, you're building something for long, sustained success. This is just the beginning of it.
It doesn't feel fluky.
No.
This year did not feel fluky at all. So, all right, so that's our Firehouse Subtext the Hour, and also checking our Twitter X poll at 107.5 The Game. The one position we didn't hit, we're going to knock it off real quick before we get out of here, was defensive back. You got a bunch of guys coming back. Jalen Kilgore, nice year as a freshman at the nickel. Hopefully develops, gets better. Obviously, he's got to improve in coverage, but in the run game, really good. Judge Collier will get the first shot in replacing Marcellus Dial, probably. O'Donnell Fortune is coming back. DQ Smith, Nick Amenwari. Vakari Swain is the interesting name here.
Somebody that was hyped up a lot going into last year.
And people say a ton of talent. Didn't get on the field, with any kind of meaningful snaps. But there's a guy to keep in your head because a lot of folks think he could be interesting as the year goes along. What's trending at 2 next here on the Halftime Show of the Game?
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game.
A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. It's the season of love, and there's no sweeter time and place to feel it than today at Love Chevrolet. The heart-pounding rumble of the Silverado High Country. The captivating 2024 Chevy Trax SUV, most affordable in its class. No matter what features you're looking for in a brand new Chevy, your match is waiting for you right now at Love Chevy. In this 63rd season of Love, your trusted hometown Chevy dealer is proud to carry on the tradition of honesty, integrity, and treating customers like family. No fast talk, no gimmicks, no ridiculous add-on stickers. Simply the best selection of new Chevys at South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer right now. And ready to drive home today. Don't forget about the $1,000 low price guarantee. Wow, there's a lot to love about Love Chevy. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
That's the power of love. Love Chevy.
This is Monster Jam. Witness big air, two-wheel skills, backflips, and all-out racing. It's the only place to see the world's best drivers tear up the dirt in your favorite Monster Jam trucks like Gravedigger, El Toro Loco, Megalodon, and more. It's big-time fun for the whole family. Monster Jam, as big as it gets. Coming to Colonial Life Arena April 6th and 7th. Brought to you by BKT Tires, Great Clips, and Texas Roadhouse. Visit monsterjam.com today.
Are you curious about jumping in on the EV revolution? Hey Gamecock Nation, it's Ben Cato, third generation owner of Cato's Power Equipment. It's no secret, from hand tools all the way to the cars and trucks we drive, battery is becoming the new standard for powering our lives. And whether you're a little skeptical or you've been on the EV trend for a while now, Cato's Power Equipment is excited to offer rental opportunities with our all-electric, commercial-grade Gravely ProTurn EV. Starting at just $125 a day with weekly and long-term rates available. This top-of-the-line commercial zero-turn will cut up to 8 consecutive hours on a single charge and can safely be recharged at your home or workshop. Designed to keep you moving, our growing selection of Gravely electric mowers are charged up and ready to mow. Excited to learn more? Come visit us at 4012 West Beltline Boulevard or give us a call, 803-254-3711, and always online at catospowerequipment.com.
Join the Lexington Medical Center Foundation on Saturday, April 20th at the Pastides Alumni Center for the McDaniels Golf Classic Gala. Featuring live and silent auctions, Capital City Catering, and live music by the Crystal Clear Band. Proceeds benefit the McDaniels Pucci Cancer Fund and support programs and services at Lexington Medical Cancer Center, from diagnosis to survivorship. Purchase your tickets today at McDanielsGolfClassic.com.
I chose public health nursing because of the flexibility it provides me that private nursing could not. This benefit is priceless to young nurses beginning their careers and starting families just like I did. In public health nursing, you can make a difference in your community and still have time for your family and your friends. Make public health your passion.
For more information, visit scdhec.gov/careers.
The World returns to the State Fairgrounds April 6th and 7th for the 29th year of the Columbia International Festival. Experience South Carolina's cultural diversity, explore 100 national exhibits, taste foods from around the world, and shop at an international bazaar. Enjoy cultural performances, fashion shows, and a parade of nations. This year highlights the Caribbean. For more information, visit CIFonline.org.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
Hey, this is Sean Cooper from Gamecock Men's Basketball, and you're listening to 107.5 The Game.
A Cumulus media station.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
Not feeling like yourself? Call the Men's Clinic at 803-875-MENS. What's trending at 2?
The Halftime Show on your home of the Gamecocks. In Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on The Game. We appreciate you if you're hanging out with us in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, anywhere in the state that you can pick us up. Thanks a lot. Or in the 107.5 The Game app or on Game TV. Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? So we thank you for being part of our day. All right, what's trending at 2? All right, we didn't get a chance. I was saving this for right now.
Okay.
Clemson has filed a lawsuit against the ACC today that portends its exit from the league. In other words, Clemson wants to peace out.
Join the club.
Second lawsuit, obviously, Florida State was first. In a filing in the Court of Common Pleas in Pickens County, South Carolina, according to the ESPN article, Clemson calls into question both the ACC's grant of rights and exit fees, calls withdrawal penalty unconscionable and unenforceable. Here's the thing. Did you sign it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Follow-up question, by the way. Let's say they get out of the ACC. Do they know they have a landing spot?
Oh, sure they do. Just like Florida State. Well, we're Clemson.
Well,
the SEC and the Big Ten are going to fight over us.
Is Greenville, nice area, obviously. It's not the bustling metropolis that Austin, Texas is, though, right?
No.
Or Columbia, South Carolina, a state capital.
No.
I mean, what value is that going to bring to the SEC necessarily?
Clemson folks and Florida State folks, get their back hair up whenever you talk about this. But
Florida State's got a better chance.
Yeah, I think they do. Here's the thing: there's so many things that go into this now.
Sure.
Is market size a thing? Yes, you can get mad about it. You can agree with it, disagree with it. You can build your market size in whichever way you want to configure it, but market size matters. Even in days where people stream, because guess what? There's still millions of people in this country that turn on their cable box.
Sure.
Not as many as there used to be, but there still are. And so where you live matters. And really, even in a lot of ways, population and the metrics and the numbers will be there about, they know where you stream.
Yeah.
You can stream anywhere. But you're streaming in a market too, usually, correct? You're not going to a different state every time you stream.
No.
So market size and those metrics do matter. Also, what matters is your brand. Now, Florida State, for many, many, many years, under Bobby Bowden, was a brand.
Yes.
Then they stopped being a brand because they weren't as good anymore. Last 2 years under Mike Norvell, they are becoming what they used to be. Last year, I will always say it, they got screwed out of the college football playoff. They just did, in my opinion. Clemson, what, 6 straight years, that was a nice role. No one's taking that away from you. But you haven't been there in a few years. And Clemson's brand is built solely on going to the college football playoff. If you're not going there year in and year out, I hate to be mean, you're not Texas.
Right.
You're not Oklahoma. You're not Alabama. You don't have these decades and decades and decades of success to build upon like those schools.
Now, Clemson, of course, has their 2 national championships in the past handful of years. A lot of success as lately. This past year was obviously a dip, but they're routinely they're winning, 10 or so games, the ACC championship being in the mix for the college football playoff, so they are a more consistent contender. My biggest thing is so much has just changed with the landscape of realignment. We just lost an entire conference, by the way. All those schools went to either the Big Ten or the Big 12. So now you're looking at these other 3 power conferences that are pushing the limits of, in the Big Ten's case, going over the limit of what we know conferences to be. They got 18 schools in the Big Ten. They got to figure out how to handle that first.
Well, here's my question, too. All right. Clemson and Florida State, either they've gotten intel that says if you leave the ACC, you can come to the Big Ten, the SEC. Because really, you want to go to the Big Ten or the SEC. The Big 12 makes less money right now.
It's a lateral move
than the ACC.
Actually, a step back, yes. Now, there's higher future potential earning opportunities because they're not locked in through 2036.
That's probably why you would go to the Big 12 if you could.
Sure.
Because the ceiling is higher, right?
Yes.
And right now, there's no big brands in the Big 12. You lost your 2 big brands.
Yes.
So maybe if you're Clemson or Florida State, you're thinking, well, we can go to the Big 12 and we become the big brands. We become now the big brands of the Big 12 because Oklahoma and Texas are gone.
Right.
That might be the pull for the Big 12 for those 2, right? All of a sudden, the spotlight's back on them.
Right.
And they aren't locked into a grant of rights till the end of time. The SEC, we've had this conversation ever since I've been on this show. Does the SEC want to have another university in the state of South Carolina? You've already got Florida. Do you want Florida State too, or do you want to go get North Carolina, who everybody wants? If you could get an ACC school, the SEC and the Big Ten both would pick North Carolina.
Sure. It's about
over Clemson or Florida State.
Getting into places where you're not already existing.
New markets, yes.
Sometime around last summer, when all this started coming about Florida State and these other schools trying to leave the ACC. Did you remember all fall long? It seemed like every 2 weeks there was like, by the end of this month, Clemson's going to be out of the ACC. Well, that didn't happen. But at the end of this month, though, they're going to be out of the ACC, and it just keeps getting pushed further and further back and didn't happen. So it's kind of a I'll believe it when I see it type of thing. But Greg Sankey was asked, in light of these schools that are actively trying to leave the ACC, could the SEC be a landing spot? And he basically said, we're not in any rush to expand. It took them 10 years to go, or it took them 20 years to go from 12 to 14. It took them another 10 years to go from 14 to 16. They're very meticulous when it comes to adding schools.
And again, if the ACC falls apart, both the SEC and the Big Ten, their first road trip is to Chapel Hill.
Yes.
It just is. And Clemson and Florida State, people are going to get mad and angry and put their resume out. It doesn't matter what you think or I think. It matters what the people in the SEC office think.
Right.
And they're going to run over to North Carolina.
Well,
fastest growing state. You got Raleigh-Durham, a fastest growing area. It's not far from Chapel Hill. Just saying.
TV money drives everything in the sport. At the end of the day, that's why they're signing these giant TV contracts. That's why realignment happens, because we make the joke about it all the time. Why is Rutgers in the Big Ten? Because they bring in the New York media market.
They're in the New York cable system.
Sure.
That makes it hilarious.
Why is Maryland in the Big Ten? Because Baltimore is a big TV market. DC as well. You can rope them all in there. So when you talk about, okay, we want to bring in a North Carolina. Guess what? You're bringing in Charlotte. You're bringing in an entire state you didn't already exist in. Virginia, you're bringing in Richmond, an entire state you didn't already exist in. That's more money than a state where probably roughly half the people are already watching your conference anyway, given that South Carolina's in it, if not more than half. So you're only adding a marginal amount of value compared to bringing in an entirely new one.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Virginia. It might not be on that same level as North Carolina of who people want, but all right, let's think like the SEC. You brought it up. Virginia has Richmond. Richmond has become a suburb of what?
D.C.
D.C. is a top 10 TV market.
Yes.
And now SEC has their footprint in Virginia.
Yes.
So if you get North Carolina and Virginia, you have now pushed your footprint to markets you're not in, and you're also getting some residual from bigger cities.
Well, and think about it. You are literally painting a broad brushstroke across now the entire Southeast. If you add in North Carolina and Virginia, those are kind of the two missing pieces. You got Kentucky, you got Arkansas, you got Texas, Oklahoma. All this lower part of the United States up to the Mason-Dixon line has been yours, except for Virginia and North Carolina.
And you're still connected because last time I checked and double-checked the map, North Carolina and South Carolina are border states.
Yes.
Virginia, North Carolina.
Border states.
Border states.
You're encompassing an entire region of the country, something that no other conference can do. I mean, yeah, the Big Ten is coast to coast right now, but there's a lot of states in between.
So, again, no one's dumping on what you're doing at Clemson or Florida State, and we're not.
Sure.
I mean, Clemson's been a perennial contender. They win 10 games. Everybody's mad if they don't go to the college football playoff. That's how high of a level that Dabo Swinney has taken his program. So big props. Florida State, Mike Norvell, great job. Great job, bud. But this isn't about stuff like that at this point.
I'm going to weigh in. We have our first comment on the live stream. Somebody wants to weigh in on this conversation. Mr. Bassettown says Clemson is a football brand, also has better athletics than Carolina. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
And that is the low end of priorities when we're talking about this.
And not to be mean, no one's comparing Clemson to Carolina.
No, that has nothing to do with
Here's the thing. South Carolina got into the SEC. They're in.
Yeah.
That's the point. They're in. They're not ejecting teams out of conferences.
No.
Conferences are just falling apart. And we appreciate you on the live stream for watching. And again, you're going to take it personal because you're a Clemson fan and you went to the university. This isn't about that. And really, look, you might be a brand to a point, but you're not a brand like Oklahoma or Texas or Alabama, or decades and decades have built these brands.
Right.
Clemson has had a really good run the last 15 years under Dabo and then won a national title in the 80s.
If Clemson is in Charlotte, North Carolina, instead of Clemson, South Carolina, all right, we're having a conversation.
Yes, you just popped it up a level.
Yes.
Because that's in the state that the SEC would want right now.
Yes.
The SEC's already got South Carolina. It's not about Clemson being better than South Carolina
that
or
does
not.
not matter.
It doesn't matter. And that's the thing, because everybody gets all bowed up about it, right? My program's better. It doesn't matter.
I don't care how many trophies you have in your case.
Because TV suits don't care.
Sure.
TV suits are looking for other things.
What has Texas accomplished outside of just making the playoff since their national championship in 2005?
I'll say this, Clemson's been a hell of a lot better football program than Texas over the last 15 years.
Absolutely.
It's not even a conversation.
Texas has been a butt of jokes for the past 15 years about them being back or not on the football side of things, and they're in the SEC now because they're a monumental brand in a capital city in Austin, Texas that's going to bring in millions upon millions of new viewers.
And I'll say this. Oklahoma's been to the college football playoff, but they couldn't win a game in it, and Clemson's won 2 titles. Guess what? That doesn't matter either.
Exactly.
That's what we're trying to say. No one's dogging your program. We give you props for what you have, but it's so much more than that now.
Yeah.
It just is. Is it fair? No. But again, Rupert Murdoch and Mickey Mouse are making these decisions now.
Yeah. When Greg Sankey is meeting with the other 80s and whatever within the conference, talking about bringing teams in, I guarantee you they're not breaking out win-loss records when talking about this. They're breaking out number figures.
Numbers, demographics, all these other things that matter, metrics, analytics, all these. And that's the thing. And you know who else is in that meeting? The TV suits.
Yeah.
The TV suits. And look, these commissioners can say all day long, oh, we don't make decisions because of TV. Well, yeah, you do, because, again, Rutgers is in the Big Ten. Right now, UCLA and Southern Cal are where?
In the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten. You know, the SEC added Oklahoma and Texas for a reason.
Yes.
Eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. Well, Clemson and Florida State, find a way out of the ACC. You might be able to find a lawyer that can get you out of this grant of rights. Go get them. But it's not as simple as soon as we get out, we're going to walk out of that courtroom and everybody's going to be running over to get us in their conference.
Right.
And that's just reality. Now, again, something we brought up, maybe they will look at the Big 12 as saying, you know what? bigger ceiling for growth, and right now they're missing big brands, and we could be the big brands in the Big 12.
Did you ever have that friend like in high school that he's dating a girl, but he thinks he should be with the prettier girl that's the cheerleader or something like that? He's like, well, you know what? I'm going to break up with Cindy because Susie's going to be all over me as soon as she finds out I'm single. Breaks up with Cindy, and guess what? Susie isn't interested.
Susie doesn't care. We had a buddy like that. Every girl wanted him.
According to him.
Let me get single.
Yeah.
And he did. He got single. And
nobody wanted him.
Nobody wanted him. So guess what he tried to do? Get back with the other girl.
Yeah, it's
Guess
like,
how that worked.
Sorry, door's locked.
That's right, because now she had moved on and found a guy even better. So, yeah, look, no one's being disrespectful. It's just this is the way this thing works. And you can say it's fair or not fair. It's the lay of the land today. It just is. So we'll see what happens. Could Clemson and Florida State eventually get out? Sure. It could happen. Not saying it couldn't. They can find a loophole somewhere. Maybe people have been trying for years. They can't yet. Maybe they will. But this automatic idea that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be fist fighting out in the yard for Florida State and Clemson, not so fast, my friend.
Get out of the ACC first. That is Everest of a hurdle right now.
Yeah, go get them. All right, that's what's trending at 2. We're going to come back, talk to our buddy Mike Uva, who's on his way to Pittsburgh to cover the Gamecocks and Oregon in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Obviously, Mike will have thoughts on that and the first day of spring practice as well. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head hanging here on the game.
The Game Network.
The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV. Ever been on this date?
You're a good-looking man.
Thank you.
Very pretty. Real soft, delicate features. They're real feminine.
And thought, man, I'd rather be listening to the game right now.
Welcome in to the afternoon show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips.
Well, just go to iTunes or Google Play and download the Game app. Sure, you may no longer be with that person anymore, but you'll never be without the game again. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Discover Herndon Certified. Herndon Chevrolet's premier used car warranty. Shop with complete confidence knowing Herndon Chevrolet has got you covered.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. If you're just not feeling right, you're a guy, you're getting older, things are off. It could be sleep. It could be exercise. It could be, you don't have any drive anymore. Forget just the bedroom and the living room and the kitchen and the den and the basement in your office. You don't bounce back well from workouts. It might just be low testosterone. You're like freaking out thinking, oh my God, what's happening to me? It might be low T. One way to find out. A free confidential consultation at the Men's Clinic with Dr. Dan and the staff. If they feel like you might have low T, they'll do some lab work. If it comes back low testosterone, they will put you on a program specifically designed for you to get you back to being you again. It's a Men's Clinic of South Carolina. What do you got to lose? It's free. Go in, talk with them. 803-875-MENS. Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
Music fans, on Friday, March 22nd, a very special night is coming to Columbia. Southern Songwriters with Patrick Davis, a national television show produced for SCE-TV and American Public Television, is taping live at the historic Chappelle Auditorium at Allen University. Patrick will be joined by Drew Holcomb, David Ryan Harris, and Sean Mullins. This show will air on more than 300 stations this summer, and you can be part of it. Tickets are on sale at southernsongwriters.com or patrickdavismusic.com. One night only, March 22nd in Columbia.
You know, in today's world, it seems like the best treatment is reserved for only a few. Discover wants to change all of that. That's why your Discover card gives you access to 24/7 live customer service as well as $0 fraud liability, which means you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases. Finally, no matter who you are or where you are in life, you'll feel special with Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply. The less your business spends, the more margin you keep. But everything else costs more. Smart businesses are graduating to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system that brings accounting, financial management, inventory, HR onto one platform. It reduces IT costs, and over 37,000 companies have already made the move. Now through April 15th, NetSuite is offering one-of-a-kind flexible financial programs. Head to netsuite.com/Patrick.
When it comes to beautiful lawns, nothing cuts like a Gravely zero-turn mower. And there's nothing like Gravely's Mow the Distance sales event starting the 27th. Save up to 25% with special financing available only at your local Gravely dealer.
What you're talking about.
Brought to you by Love Chevy, the best selection of new Chevys. Right now, no hassle, no ridiculous add-on stickers. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Get your taste buds ready. Chicken Parm just got an upgrade. The new Chicken Parmesan Meatball Sub from Firehouse Subs is made with savory chicken meatballs in a bright marinara sauce topped with shaved Parmesan, melted provolone, and crispy Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, served on a toasted garlic bread roll. Try the new Chicken Parmesan Meatball Sub for a limited time only at Firehouse Subs. Order online or on the app today. They make their subs differently because their subs can make a difference every day. Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives.
Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100.
Your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence. The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
and the 107.5 The Game app.
All right, we continue what's trending at 2 here on The Game Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Now, I heard this rumor that Mike Yuva actually hung up on Alshon Jeffrey because, you know, he had to yap with us. Is that true there, Mike?
Yep, I hung up on Alshon, and I'm going to get kicked out of the city now. Alshon just gave me a call, and I wasn't even thinking about the time, and we were just talking it up, and then I got a phone call from you guys, and I'm like, Alshon, I got to get going. I kind of felt bad. He's like, oh, okay. So if Alshon doesn't call me back, I'm blaming you, Terry. I'm on the Christmas cards list this year.
That's right. You're dead to me, Ford, if you screwed up my relationship with Alshon. Oh, man. All right, so are you still driving to Pittsburgh?
Yep. Me and Jack Veltri, we were on the road to Pittsburgh, and we went to practice this morning for football, and then we hit the road right after we got the highlights up, and I'd say we're probably about 2 hours in. So, you know, we still have the scenic route as we get ready to go through West Virginia in a little bit.
Oh, that'll be so much fun. You've driven the scenic route through West Virginia. Yeah, buddy. Enjoy that 2-lane highway. Get behind that 18-wheeler. Have fun.
Hell yeah. I'm taking advantage of the express lane. So, you know, we're going to bring that bill up for you, unfortunately.
All right, Mike, you've hanging out with us, Gamecock Central here on the Halftime Show in the Game. Okay, you're at spring practice. I know there's not much to get an eyeball on, but any thoughts after what you saw today after one day?
Like you said, I mean, it's so difficult. And, you know, I've been doing this for such a long time with covering not just the Gamecocks going up to my 9th season, but covering college football that, you know, naturally you don't see a lot when you get right out there. They're not going to really do any team periods. I know people want to get excited about a quarterback throwing the ball in just, you know, just shorts and shoulder pads, but there really wasn't much to take away. I will say this, though. I think what stood out to me is just how calm Sellers looked out there, just from a leadership standpoint. And again, it's just trying to find something to talk about without getting too carried away. But when you think about it, and Shane Beamer, I had a chance to go back and listen to his press conference from today. When you think about it, with Doty working with the wide receivers to start today's practice, that's your most experienced quarterback right there as far as Gamecock reps. And I know we've only seen him limited in games, but from a practice standpoint, he understands where he has to be, what he needs to do. And, again, it's just day one, but when you move on from a guy like Spencer Rattler, you really need someone to be the glue in that room. So that's what just stood out to me, and that's what you would expect, and that's what you would hope for, especially from a guy that many people expect to be the guy come week one.
Mike Uva hanging out with us from Gamecock Central, talking Gamecocks here on the halftime show. The injury report was short. Rocket Sanders most likely won't see him in the spring. Obviously, Mo Kaba still come back from the knee injury. I mean, neither one of those surprise you, right?
Yeah, no, I think, and the other thing too is you're gonna ease back into it, especially with a guy like Rocket Sanders, right? You know what he can bring to the table, and I think this is a tremendous opportunity for the younger backs in that room. A guy like DJ Braswell, who, look, I understand the excitement of not just Rocket Sanders and some of the additional players they've been able to bring into the transfer portal, but don't forget about what Braswell did towards the end of the year, especially because of the injuries at South Carolina. He was thrown to the mix. He had to burn his redshirt year because he played in 5 games. He did some good things when he had the ball in his hands. Remember that beautiful reception he had, showed off the speed. But the other thing, too, that really impressed me was his pass pro, what he was able to do from a blocking standpoint. So tremendous opportunity for all the new faces, Oscar Attaway in particular, Juwan Howell, the transfer from South Carolina State. But don't overlook DJ Braswell because, man, he already has a year under his belt in the system, but he's also been able to prove that he can play at this level. It's going to be a loaded and very talented running back room. A lot of competition in that room, certainly through the spring, but especially heading into fall camp.
Yapping with Mike Uva from Gamecock Central as he uses Chris Clark's gas card to go to Pittsburgh. We are here for a few more minutes with Mike. All right, let's switch it over to hoops. You got your 6 seed South Carolina, 11 seed Oregon. Dana Altman has been a very good tournament coach at Oregon. Give me your thoughts about this 6-11 matchup as you drive to Pittsburgh with Jack.
I think what stands out to me more than anything is that when you look at Oregon, yes, they're a big team from a height standpoint. And I understand that maybe there's some PTSD because of what took place against Auburn. I just think it was just a bad matchup. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's not making excuses. It's just calling a spade a spade. The way that Auburn likes to play defensively. And we saw that not just once, but we saw it twice this season. With Oregon, yes, they got more size when you go across the board than South Carolina. But I also feel like they're not as physical in comparison to Auburn. And if anything, I think that will allow South Carolina to go back to the drawing board, to be able to understand, hey, this is probably what teams are going to try to do. They're going to try to look at what Auburn did, not just once, but twice, and try to replicate that. I don't think Oregon's going to be able to do that from a physicality standpoint, but certainly for South Carolina, you would like to be able to play inside out the way they have all season long and be able to control the tempo, control the pace. Not being able to establish that early on and obviously falling behind, it forced South Carolina to play a little bit faster. I mean, I talked to Jack about this last week. In a way, it's kind of like a team that likes to run the football. I don't want to say that South Carolina is like a wishbone offense if you want to compare it to a football standpoint, a triple option, but kind of like Air Force, kind of like some of these teams when they fall behind who like to run the football. Well, what happens? Now they have to throw the ball and they get out of their comfort zone. So I would equate it to the same for South Carolina. They need to be able to get the lead early, can't fall behind, because from an offensive standpoint, that's where they set the tone. And if they have to play a little bit faster early, not saying that they can't overcome those deficits, but it's not what they want to do.
And, Mike, last thing real quick. We went over their numbers this season, and in their wins, to your point, I think their biggest deficit was like 8 points early against Mississippi State, the game at CLA. Besides that, South Carolina hasn't had that, game where in the first 5 minutes, they're down by 14. Every game they have held their own or have had a lead early, so they didn't have to, like you said, play catch-up, which at their tempo is very difficult.
Yeah, and I thought Lamont Paris said it well the other day from sharing his experiences, whether it be as an assistant coach, whether it be as a head coach, coaching in the NCAA tournament. And he said that the biggest thing that you have to do is you have to go in there and not play necessarily too fast from an offensive standpoint, but you have to set the tone defensively and allow your game from an offensive standpoint to just happen. And when you take a step back and you hear that quote, you think about it, that's really not much different than what South Carolina has done throughout the course of the season, especially when they've been successful. So I would expect South Carolina to do just that. Look, we understand that there's a lot at stake as far as what South Carolina is looking to achieve, right? They're tied for the most wins in program history. This is the first time in 7 years they're in the tournament, which, oh, by the way, on this date 7 years ago, they beat Duke to advance to the Sweet 16. They want to be able to do more, but they've already been able to do so much. To me, anything they do in the tournament is the cherry on top, but certainly from a player standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, and I'm sure a good portion of the fan base standpoint, they're not satisfied with that. And I'm not saying you should be, but, man, what a magical season this has been, and hopefully it is only the beginning, and we're able to go on a magical run like we did back in 2017 when we saw this Gamecock team just put so much excitement in that Columbia community.
Mike, you have a Gamecock Central. Appreciate you, my man. We'll be bugging you at like 3 o'clock in the morning in your hotel.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Thanks, brother. Always appreciate you jumping in, Mike. All right, halftime show. Mike Uva, Gamecock Central. We'll get back in here. Today is March the 19th, Tyler.
Well, as Mike just teased, considering the last Gamecock team to go to the NCAA tournament, greatest day in the history of the world.
That's next on the halftime show here on The Game.
The Game Network. The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV. Listen to Gamecocks baseball on The Game. And if a Gamecocks batter hits a grand slam, you could win cash. You could win cash. You could win cash. You could win cash in the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. Go to 1075thegame.com and register. Brought to you by Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union and The Game.
There's something remarkable about the University of South Carolina. It's in the labs, where researchers are discovering ways to make communities healthier and stronger. It's in the nation's best first-year student experience, in top-ranked programs in nursing and health sciences. It's where more South Carolina students have access to higher education than ever before. Because when you stand for something bigger than yourself, you can create something that benefits us all. Behold, the remarkable we.
Shepherd's Glass has provided commercial, residential, and auto glass installation, repair, and replacement to Columbia for over 50 years. Large retail storefronts, auto, custom shower enclosures, and mirrors for that remodeling or new construction project. Visit shepherdsglass.com to see and learn more. Now with 2 locations on Platte Springs Road in West Columbia and Chapin at 855 Chapin Road. shepherdsglass.com.
Shepherd's Glass. Shepherd's Glass. A true reflection of quality.
This is Bill Gunn for Old Timey Meat Market. I spend my nights with my son, my daughter, enjoying cooking out with Old Timey Meat Market foods, and you need to visit one of their 3 locations, St. Andrews, South Congaree, and Lexington, where you'll find their shelves stocked with various cuts and grades of beef, pork, poultry, seafood, and of course, exotic meats. Selections are always fresh, never frozen, competitively priced, and of the absolute highest quality. So get all of your needs at Old Timey Meat Market.
Old Timey Meat Market. Quality selection, a cut above the rest.
Run the Cup, the Lexington Medical Center Governor's Cup Road Race. Be part of history in downtown Columbia at the longest running and most prestigious road race in the Southeast. The Half Marathon, 5K, and Main Street Mile are now open for registration. Kids can run the Cup for free in the Kids Main Street Mile. And don't miss the post-race celebration with music, food, vendors, and a special awards ceremony. Register now for the Lexington Medical Center Governor's Cup Race, April 12th and 13th. Learn more at governorscupsc.org.
The NBA season is still here, and there is no easier way to get in on the action than with Underdog Fantasy and their Pick'em game. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Here's how it goes. The Pick'em game, you pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams. Select higher or lower on player stats, and if your picks hit, you can win up to 100 times your money. It's that easy, and it's legal in South Carolina. That's the best part. Underdog is super easy to play, and it's even easier to get started. Just go to their easy-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up using promo code 1075. And Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. Plus, they'll give you a mystery special pick to use on your first Pick'em entry. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code 1075 to get your first deposit of $10 or more. Matched plus your special pick. You must be 18 and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Join Angry Fish Brewing Company this week as they celebrate St. Paddy's Day in style. They're excited to announce the release of 4 new beers: Snug Harbor 80 Shillings, a Scottish Ale, Tightlines Irish Red, Roundabout ESB, Extra Special Bitter, and Pints O Gold Irish Pale Ale. And that's not all. They'll have live music with Eric Flanders on Saturday from 7 to 10, along with delicious food available every day. Make your way to Angry Fish on Fabrister Lane in Lexington this week for a St. Paddy's Day celebration you won't forget. Remember, at Angry Fish, we drink all we can and sell the rest.
What you're talking about.
Brought to you by Love Chevy. Check out the Season of Love at South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer, I-26 in Harbison, and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Hey there, Columbia. All of us at Village Idiot Pizza would like to congratulate Dawn Staley, Lamont Paris, and both their teams on a phenomenal regular season, and thank you for the memories. Speaking of making memories, come make some with us at either Village Idiot location, 5 Points or Olympia at the Mills. Together, all postseason long, let's cheer on our Gamecocks. You may call it one thing, but we call it the third month of the calendar craziness.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
The greatest day in the history of the world on the Halftime Show is sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
All right, time to check out the greatest day in the history of the world, March 19th. Get started. Going way, way back. 1955, San Francisco, not the Giants, not the 49ers. No. University of San Francisco wins the NCAA basketball championship. I believe a guy named Bill Russell was on that team.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. I've heard. Also, Ohio State on this day in 1960 won the national championship. I believe that was the team with John Havlicek, with, oh, God, I'm losing my mind. I'm trying to remember who else, but I'll tell you, the one guy on that team, I think, came off the bench. He was a reserve, a guy named Bobby Knight.
Who's also pretty good.
Fred Taylor, if my memory serves me, was the head coach of that those really good Ohio State teams of the early 60s.
Not as much madness back then.
No, there weren't brackets, not much madness. Charles Barkley wasn't part of the studio show. Different world. Different world back then. 1966, a huge day in the greatest day in the history of the world. Texas Western wins the NCAA championship, upsetting Kentucky 72-65. You've seen the movie. You've heard the history.
Yep.
Texas Western, starting 5 black players, beat an all-white Kentucky team coached by Adolph Rupp. It was a historic moment in the history, not just of college basketball, but of sports.
Right.
Also on this day, most lopsided victory in the history of the NBA, 1972. The Lakers beat the Golden State Warriors 162-99. Steph Curry was not playing. 63-point victory.
Good Lord.
Yeah, pretty much. On this day in 1995, some guy named Michael Jordan made his return from his 17-month quote-unquote retirement. Or number 45. People forget this.
That's right.
Only shot 7 of 28 from the field. Bulls beat Indiana in OT. Candace Parker on this day in 2006, Tyler Head became the first woman to dunk in an NCAA tournament game.
Okay.
Very nice. Candace Parker could play, she's still good.
It's kind of crazy to think about. Dunking is such a recent phenomenon in women's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a handful that have actually ever done it. It's crazy.
Yeah. It really is if you think about it. This day in 2011, Mike Krzyzewski, his 900th career win, 2-point victory over Michigan as Duke went to the Sweet 16 for the 12th time in 14 years. That guy was a pretty good coach.
Good tournament coach.
Yeah, he did all right. 2022, LeBron James moves past Karl Malone into second place in the NBA's all-time scoring list. Lakers did lose to the Wizards, but LeBron James put up 38 in that victory.
You know, we always joke about Wilt Chamberlain always showing up whenever we do this of setting some kind of record in the NBA. Like, LeBron's going to be that person when we're doing this years from now. It's like, oh, that was the night that he got 40,000 points. That was the night he did this record, and that record, and that record, and that record.
I've said this before. What he's doing at his age is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's not just hanging around. He hasn't, gone from being elite to being, okay, he's good, but he's not who he used to be. He's not the 27-year-old LeBron James, but you know what? He's still one of the better players in the NBA.
Well, I'm trying to remember. It was a couple years ago when he, said he had the aspirations to play in the league alongside Bronny, his son. And his son was, 14 or 15 at that point in time. So you were talking 5-6 years at the earliest down the road. And people are like, I don't know if he's still going to be at that level. I mean, Bronny's not going to come out after this year, but if he did, LeBron's still playing next year.
Here's the interesting part. Who says Bronny's an NBA player?
Well,
isn't that the ironic part? Now, to be fair to him, he was coming back from a major health issue.
Sure.
Southern Cal was a disaster this year. He'll come back next year, and maybe he'll show you the skills a lot of people saw when he was in high school.
Right.
But all that talk of Bronny being a no-doubt first-round pick, I think we got to hold that back right now.
And people were very quick to put him in the mock drafts and all that kind of stuff. And I brought the point, if his name was Bronny Smith, he wouldn't get the same amount of recognition.
No, he would not.
But yes, his play is not befitting of somebody that's ready to go to the NBA right now.
But ready? Would you draft him in the first round knowing you get LeBron?
Oh, 1,000%.
That's my point.
And somebody would be willing to do that.
Absolutely. All right, so that's the greatest day in the history of the world. Brought to you by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. All right, we got to flip our gears back now. NCAA tournament, Thursday, 3:30 pregame, 4 o'clock tip here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. Lamont Paris and his men taking on Oregon in a 6-11 game. You brought this up, Tyler, and this game has been kind of split in predictions.
Yes.
There are people who are picking South Carolina, people who are picking Oregon. Matt Norlander from CBS put out his prediction, I think it was yesterday.
Bottom half of this bracket here, Gamecocks over Ducks. I don't think it's going to be that close. I really like what Lamont Paris' team has there. Keep an eye on Colin Murray Boyles, and then I like the Jays all day against the Zips there. Creighton moves on with Greg McDermott and company. Then.
So, again, South Carolina, Creighton in the second round, according to Matt. And we'll get into it more as we finish out the week.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, with South Carolina, the matchup with Oregon, again, we've talked about Oregon's big, who is very athletic.
Nafali Dante.
Nice work by you.
As far as I know.
We think, we looking on YouTube, that's the name. That's how they said the first name for Dante. Everybody says, thank God his last name's easy. Dante's a very athletic guy. He doesn't have a ton of range, but he's very efficient. He averages, his field goal percentage is 70% from the floor.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
This guy, he's going to the rack. He's not going to be shooting a lot of jumpers. So how South Carolina defends Dante is going to be huge in this game. Huge. Because the Oregon perimeter, it's not very consistent. And we talked about, some things about the perimeter with Cuisinart, obviously ex-South Carolina Gamecock, shooting under 40% from the floor, about 32.5 from three, but has taken over 400 shots this year.
Right.
And so the consistency hasn't been there from the guy that takes the most shots. Oregon, I was talking to Elijah about this because Elijah's been breaking down Oregon tape. That's why I love him. And he says what he's seen, Oregon's playing a lot of zone. Or in the game he saw, Oregon was playing a lot of zone. So the thought is if Oregon plays zone, South Carolina's going to have to shoot their way out of that zone. Or attack it in the smart ways, dribble drive the wings, cut the baseline, cut the free throw line. So we'll see how this plays itself out. But Oregon, they got hot at the end and won the Pac-12 tournament. Really, they won the Pac-12 tournament because the teams they played couldn't make a shot. Now, is that because Oregon really grinded on D, or those teams just couldn't make a shot? I don't know, but that was the path. Oregon wasn't what you call wow on offense in any of those three games.
And I think it's significant. Obviously, they beat Colorado in the championship game, and they beat Arizona in the semifinals. That they lost to both those teams in the last three games of the regular season.
Well, they were stumbling at the end before the tournament, And if you go back to the shooting percentages in those games by Arizona, by Colorado, they just didn't make shots.
Right.
And Arizona is one of the best offensive teams in America and just couldn't make shots. Colorado, top 40 in offensive efficiency, didn't make shots. Now, I didn't really grind hard on the Pac-12 tournament. I was falling asleep. I don't know how much of it was just Oregon defensively took it up another notch, or those teams missed open looks. But Oregon, there's a reason they're an 11. Can they beat South Carolina? Sure. Dana Altman's a fabulous tournament coach. Last time they were in the tournament a few years ago, Oregon goes to Sweet 16. So we'll see which way it goes. But folks are almost split on predicting this game.
Yeah, and Norlander thinks South Carolina's going to win pretty convincingly. Everybody else seems to think this game's going to be pretty close.
I feel like this one is going to be tight. And, well, first of all, South Carolina, when you play that tempo and you take away that many possessions in a basketball game, you know, you're keeping yourself in games, but you're also keeping other teams in games at times. So we'll see where it goes. And, of course, the meeting with Creighton. Creighton's really good, man. Really good. All right, it's the greatest day in the history of the world, and also throw a little South Carolina talk in. Again, 3:30 Thursday, 4 o'clock tip. The women will be here on the game in Columbia. 1:30 pregame, 2 o'clock tip against whichever 16 seed is going to be the sacrificial lamb on Friday. And we're at Twin Peaks Thursday, Friday for March Madness as well. And come on out on Thursday. Get yourself a team. We only got 68 of these babies. They went fast last year. Stop in the Vista at Twin Peaks, grab a team, you just reach into the hat, and hold on to that team, because the more they win, the more you can win prizes. And the team that wins a national title, if you have that team, your grand prize, season tickets for the rest of the South Carolina Gamecock baseball season. That's at Twin Peaks Thursday. Stop in. We'll be there starting about 11:30, hanging out. We kick the show at noon. We'll get back in here. Firehouse Sub text the hour. Who knows, we might even yap with Jay Phillips a little bit before we get to 3 o'clock in the postgame show with Jay and Elijah. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on The Game.
The Game Network. The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Also on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming live on The Game TV. Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV. Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. The Game TV.
This is Jim Rome with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. Old Trapper, what's your beef?
There were actually a number of cool things that happened between the time I went off the air yesterday to the moment that I cracked open the mic today. But nothing cooler than this. The Philadelphia Phillies are trying to find a new closer to replace Craig Kimbrell, who left for Baltimore. The front runner is Jose Alvarado. Give him the job. I'm Jim Rome. CBS Sports Radio.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing. But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
There's something remarkable about the University of South Carolina. It's in the labs, where researchers are discovering ways to make communities healthier and stronger. It's in the nation's best first-year student experience, in top-ranked programs in nursing and health sciences. It's where more South Carolina students have access to higher education than ever before. Because when you stand for something bigger than yourself, you can create something that benefits us all. Behold, the remarkable we.
Last throw, big guy.
Come on, baby. I need me a giant bear.
I got this. I am the target. Ben, throw. Oh, well. Look who won a giant bear. That's a grizzly.
Oh, Mama's baby bear.
When you join the South Carolina Education Lottery's Players Club, you get way more than you expect. More chances, more wins, and more surprises.
Yeah, he's had all his shots. Just don't look him in the eye.
Join the Players Club at seeeducationlottery.com because more happens here.
Thank you for 40 unforgettable years. Dell Technologies is celebrating with anniversary savings on their most popular tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs like the XPS 13 Plus, powered by Intel Core processors, and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
Progressive presents 10 things on a contractor's to-do list that are harder than getting a commercial auto insurance quote. Bidding a new client, giving an accurate estimate, finding affordable materials, getting a client to pay you for work you already did, getting a client to pay you, period, securing permits and workers and tools, getting those workers and tools to work together, and finding the perfect pair of overalls. Pockets, baby. But the easiest thing on a small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you can save on commercial auto insurance. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms and conditions.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
Oh, time for our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-446-100. What do you got there, Tyler Head?
Yeah, so going back to our discussion at the top of the hour with the Clemson launching the latest lawsuit at the ACC. Nameless texter weighs in and says, crazy if y'all think FSU and Clemson will be without a conference if they get out of the ACC. We did not say they would be without a conference. We just think that they won't be in the conference that they think they're going to get in.
Yes. Oh, after our conversation, we said they could very well end up in the Big 12 because they don't have big brands, and the ceiling of the Big 12 is a lot higher than whatever the wreckage of the ACC. But what we said was if you think the SEC and the Big 10 are going to be having a fight in the front yard over you, you might be disappointed. Jay Phillips is here.
Yeah, I agree with you guys, and I still continue to question somewhat rhetorically what is the end game here? Do Florida State and Clemson want to blow up the conference? Do they just want to leave and negotiate a lower buyout? Do they want, and let's do this too. Let's remember, what is the conference? It's the member institutions. Again, this is not in any individual conference. There's not some, Emperor Palpatine, right?
There's not?
No.
You sure about that?
Well, Jim Delaney retired. So there's he might have been the closest, but it's member institutions, and you have to remember that. So I mean, if Clemson and Florida State simply want to renegotiate their deal, why aren't they spending their time and resources on that? I'm with you guys. I do not believe, especially, and I'll say this more on our show coming up, but the Southeastern Conference is not sitting by salivating like a hungry dog waiting for y'all to come in.
Right.
At all.
No.
I'm just letting you know.
I agree.
I mean, I've had these conversations. They're not.
Yeah. I
Doesn't
agree
mean
with
you won't one day.
I think it's B for what you said right now. I think they want out. I mean, for a while, I think they just wanted more money from the ACC. They want everybody to go, oh, no, don't leave.
There's only so much to go around.
But what I think now, and again, this is just me thinking, when Florida State got locked out of the college football playoff, despite being undefeated and winning the conference championship game, and we all said this.
They did what they did.
Ready? If you're in the SEC or the Big Ten and you lose your starting quarterback, but you're undefeated and win the conference championship, you're in the college football playoff.
I think so.
So I think Florida State, the minute they got locked out, they went, we got to get the hell out of this league.
Yes, you're right. And then the second, if you're wondering, and this is just my opinion, I don't know this, and maybe Clemson will say more about it at some point, or those around the program or the school. But I think the reason Clemson did what they did when they did it today is that we just saw the new deal for the college football playoff get signed.
And the ACC
The ACC per school is going to make, what is it, Tyler, $9 million less per year?
Yeah, actually almost half less. The Big Ten, the SEC are going to be making about double what the ACC and the Big 12 will.
I think I know the SEC.
I think it's like 13 for the ACC and the Big 12, and like 21.
Yeah,
the SEC
so it's
and the Big
8 or
9
$9 million, and over the course of time, that's a lot of money.
Yes,
so that's why Clemson acted the way they
Totally
did
agree.
today.
Yep. I guess the thing, when Tyler and I were talking about it, and, because the thought is obviously they would rather go to one of the big dogs. And we always say, well, the ACC right now and the Big 12 is whatever, but the Big 12 doesn't have a grant of rights that goes till the end of time.
2031.
And so your idea is, well, do you go to it seems like that conference, their commissioner kind of gets it. He's kind of a forward thinker. You're not locked in like the ACC. You might be able to get more money. So, and then there's no big brand left in the Big 12, Jay.
No,
They're all gone.
They would help the Big 12 a lot. And here's the thing that you and I talked about when we were still doing our show, and this was a thing a few months back. Anything can be renegotiated as long as you get all the parties together to renegotiate it. That's the problem that the ACC has right now. Remember, they didn't get enough people together. They've tried to blow this up. They've tried. They failed.
Right. And everybody's failed who's tried. And I guess the thing to me is I feel like before it's all said and done that if the ACC lets them out, Florida State, Clemson, you've still got to make it enough of a hammer so everybody else doesn't follow suit, right? Because the reason you added Cal and Stanford, you moved those universities to the East Coast because they picked up the entire the buildings.
The whole school. Palo Alto is now about 30 minutes from Charlottesville. Beautiful campus.
I think I saw that. By the way, the imaging,
yes,
beautiful.
Beautiful.
So you did that to cover your butt in case you lose these two. And you're going, okay, they're not Florida State, Clemson. We get it in football, but they're schools that bring positives to us. And that way, if we lose two, we've added two. The last thing you want is then Virginia, North Carolina going, oh, you made that really easy. We're rolling two. Then somebody else goes, you know what? We're out of here too.
Well,
you don't want to be the Pac-12.
The most interested third-party bystander right now, without question, is the University of North Carolina. And they're I think they're being as sort of the elder statesman. I realize Clemson is a founding member as well, but I think North Carolina probably sees itself as sort of that school. They're kind of hanging back and waiting.
And if you and I know this, North Carolina knows that everybody wants them over Clemson and Florida State. Because if you and I know it, they know it.
There's zero doubt of that. Zero.
Because they're smarter than you and I.
Yeah, there's zero doubt of that.
Absolutely.
North Carolina is the prize of the ACC.
And they know they are the supermodel.
Absolutely.
Good hanging out with you. Post-game show next with Jay and Elijah. Tyler, nice work, my friend. We'll do this again tomorrow at noon here on The Game.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game.
A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
Music fans, on Friday, March 22nd, a very special night is coming to Columbia. Southern Songwriters with Patrick Davis, a national television show produced for SCE TV and American Public Television.